Story 1. At Thanksgiving, my nephew dumped turkey on my lap. Lick it off, he said. While my sister laughed, I stayed silent. That night, Mom texted, "Don't contact us again." I replied, "Sure, I'm removing my name from every loan too." Minutes later, the group chat was imploding. "All right, Reddit. My sister thought it was cute when my nephew dumped my plate in my lap." Well, that was the last time they laughed. I gave them a hard reality check. Grab your popcorn and enjoy the shit show. Name's Riley, 33 male, and I fix pipes for a living. Let me set the scene for you. I'm sitting in my van outside a hardware store on a Thursday night. Just finished an emergency call. Some guy's water heater exploded and flooded his basement. Spent 4 hours in ankle-deep water, replacing valves and running new lines. The call had come in around 6:30, right when I sat down with takeout from the Chinese place near my apartment. I took 2 bites before the phone rang. The guy was panicking. Water everywhere. His wife was screaming in the background. I showed up 20 minutes later. The basement looked like a swimming pool. 3 inches deep, the water heater had split at a weak seam. Happens with older units. Shut off the main line first. Always do. Then started pumping. Got the water down. Disconnected the old unit. Hauled it up the stairs while the guy watched and wrung his hands. The new water heater took 2 hours to install. Running new lines took another hour because the old copper was corroded. While I worked, I listened to them argue in the kitchen above me. Money stress. The sound carried through the floorboards. Finished at 10:15. The guy paid me in cash. Full amount plus a tip. Then my phone lit up. Mom's text hit like a court summons. "We've cut you off. Don't contact us again." No explanation. No lead up. Just a clean break delivered via text message. I stared at it. Read it 3 times. It was weird. "We've cut you off." Like I was some kind of subscription service they decided to cancel. Another text popped up. My sister Haley hearted the message. A little thumbs up emoji next to "Don't contact us again." Real classy. Here's the thing. 6 hours earlier, I was at Thanksgiving dinner. Haley's kid Theo, who just turned 5, grabbed my plate while I was helping Mom in the kitchen. The plate with turkey, mashed potatoes, gravy. The whole 9 yards. Kid looked right at me, smiled, and flipped it onto my lap. Then he giggled. "Oops! I think you need to lick it off." Haley laughed. A genuine, amused laugh. While I grabbed napkins, started cleaning. "Boys will be boys," she said. Still smiling. I didn't respond, but something shifted in my head. Now I'm looking at my phone. At Mom's text. I'd been keeping records for 2 years. Not because I planned this. Just because I'm the kind of guy who keeps receipts, work orders, invoices, payment records. I apply the same logic to everything. If it's worth doing, it's worth documenting. And I'd been documenting Haley's financial disasters for 26 months. Every co-signed loan, every joint account, every desperate midnight text asking for rent money, every promise to pay me back that evaporated like morning fog. I kept it all in a folder on my phone, backed up to the cloud, organized by date and type. I called it my insurance policy. Tonight, I needed to file a claim. I typed back, "Anyways, I'm removing my name from every loan. You have 48 hours. Sent it. Set my phone down. Started the van. Didn't check when it started buzzing. Just watched the screen light up over and over while I drove home. What they didn't know was that removing my name was just step 1. I'd spent enough late nights after emergency calls researching cosigner laws, credit disputes, and how to legally extract yourself from someone else's financial train wreck. I knew exactly what would happen when my name disappeared from those accounts. I knew about the car lease Haley couldn't afford, the business credit card she maxed out, the loan for inventory she never sold, the landlord she still owed money from 3 years ago. I knew things Haley thought were buried, and I was about to dig them all up at once. People always want the ending first. But here's the thing about letting someone implode. You don't push them. You just stop holding them up and let gravity do the work. So this is how a plate of turkey became the final straw. How a family that called me their rock learned what happens when the rock walks away. But wait, here are some other things you should know. I got into plumbing at 22. Started as an apprentice, worked my way up. Now I run my own small operation. The work's steady. In my family, I'm the reliable one, the fixer. Not plumbing, though I do that too. I mean the guy who shows up when someone needs help. The guy who co-signs loans and makes late-night transfers and never complains. My little sister Haley is 29 and everything I'm not. Flashy. Dramatic. Treats responsibility like it's optional. She's the type who posts motivational quotes about hustling while asking me for gas money via text at 2 a.m. You know the type. Mom calls her ambitious. Dad calls her spirited. I call her a financial black hole with good PR. But I noticed patterns over the years. How Haley always had a crisis that needed immediate cash. How her business ventures always needed just one more investment to take off. How her Instagram showed rooftop brunches and designer bags the same week she texted me begging for grocery money. The pattern started small. A borrowed 20 here. A missed lunch bill there. Things you write off because family's supposed to help each other. But borrowed 20s became borrowed hundreds. Missed lunch bills became unpaid rent. I remember the first time I realized something was wrong. Haley was 25, called me crying about her electric bill, said they were shutting off her power in 2 days. She needed $180. I sent it immediately because that's what you do. Week later, saw photos on her Instagram. New outfit, fancy dinner with friends, tagged at some downtown bar with bottle service. I did the math. That outfit cost more than the electric bill I'd just paid. Didn't say anything. Just started paying closer attention. Next month, another emergency. Car insurance lapsed. Needed $240 to reinstate it, or she'd lose her license. Sent the money. Then watched her post about a weekend trip to the beach with her friends. Hotel rooms aren't free. Third month, she needed help with Theo's daycare deposit. $300. Critical. He'd lose his spot otherwise. I sent it. The same week, she posted unboxing videos of packages from some boutique website. Clothes, shoes, decorative stuff for her apartment. The gap between her words and her actions grew every month. I documented everything, dates and amounts. Then screenshots when she'd promised to pay me back Friday, and Friday became never. Then I started saving her social media posts, the ones where she talked about building her empire while owing me $6,000. Bank statements went into the folder. Every joint account showing my deposits and her withdrawals. Every credit card statement showing charges at places I'd never heard of for things I'd never approved. I wasn't planning anything at the time, just documenting reality. Here's how it works in my family. When something needs doing, I do it. Haley shows up late with an excuse and a Starbucks cup. Everyone smiles. I carry the weight. While I carried the weight, I also collected receipts. The first debt was Haley's car. She was 24, needed reliable transportation. Her credit looked like a crime scene. No down payment. Terrible financing terms. The dealer said she needed a cosigner. Mom called me while I was under a sink at a commercial job downtown. Water dripping on my face. Wrench in hand. Just sign, she said. She promised she'll make the payments. I was tired, wet, annoyed. I signed the paperwork on my phone during my lunch break. Haley missed the third payment. The bank called me. I paid it, screenshotted the confirmation, added it to the folder. Then it was a business credit card. Just for startup costs, she said. For her online boutique. I'll be responsible. She wasn't. Every late fee went into my folder. Every text where she said she'd handle it went into my folder. She'd message me at random times. Tuesday afternoon. Can you spot me $150? I'll get you back Friday. Friday would come and go. The following Tuesday. Hey, can you help with Theo's shoes? He grew out of his old ones. No mention of the previous $150. I'd send the money for Theo's shoes. Because the kid needed shoes. Then I'd see Haley post about her new nail appointment. Professional photos of her manicure. $45 minimum for that kind of work. The math never worked. Her stories never added up. But pointing it out made me the bad guy. Made me unsupportive. Made me the brother who didn't believe in her dreams. So I stopped pointing it out. Started documenting instead. I wasn't mad yet. Just tired of being the only one with a working memory. Then Dad needed surgery for his back. Insurance covered most of it, but not the deductible. $5,000 up front. I wrote the check. Dad cried. Called me his hero. That one I didn't resent. Dad spent 35 years in construction before his back gave out. He earned the help, but Haley used it as leverage. Whenever I mentioned money she owed, someone would bring up Dad's surgery, like it was a family contribution instead of my personal check. I saved those conversations too. By the time I hit 30, my name was attached to 3 things: Haley's car lease, a store credit card we shared, and a line of credit for her boutique inventory that never sold. Meanwhile, I worked nights, flooded basements, burst pipes. I learned which 24-hour diners had the cleanest bathrooms and the best coffee. I learned which gas stations stayed open late and which ones had sketchy parking lots. I also learned about cosigner removal policies, credit disputes, joint account liability. I'd sit in my van between calls at 3 a.m., reading legal documents and saving PDFs, bookmarking articles about how to protect yourself from someone else's financial chaos. Not because I plan to use them, just because knowledge is free and I had time to kill. Every family gathering, Haley performed, talked about networking and building her brand while Mom beamed, showed Theo how to dance for her Instagram stories while Dad smiled, talked over me when I mentioned work because plumbing isn't glamorous, and every time I added mental notes, how she ordered expensive meals but forgot her wallet, how she promised Theo toys next week, then acted like she never said it, how she borrowed Mom's jewelry and returned it, scratched. Small stuff, easy to ignore, until you see the pattern. Last year, Haley's boutique needed an LLC filing fee. She forgot to pay it. Penalties hit. She called me at midnight while I was driving home from a sewer backup job in the suburbs. I need $800 by tomorrow or I lose the business license. I sent the money. Added the transaction to my spreadsheet. The locked note on my phone where I tracked everything. Dates, amounts, purposes, outcomes. Then I looked up the LLC filing myself. Found out the business name was already taken. The license she was talking about didn't exist. She'd lied about what she needed the money for. Not a big lie. Just enough to make it sound urgent. I didn't confront her. Just added it to the file. Lied about LLC fee with date and proof. Theo was born during that mess. I held him at the hospital while Haley took selfies. My little king, she captioned the photo, got 400 likes. The hospital bill got sent to collections because she never set up the payment plan. I found out when the collections letter came to my address. She'd listed my apartment as her contact for something and never updated it. I photographed the letter, added it to the folder, then paid the collections bill so it wouldn't hit public records. Not because I'm nice, because I needed Haley's credit to stay functional enough for what I didn't know I was planning yet. By Thanksgiving, I had 2 years of documentation. Text messages where Haley promised to pay me back. Screenshots of her Instagram showing expensive purchases the same week she texted me for rent. Bank statements. Payment confirmations. Voice memos where she admitted things she'd later deny. I kept it organized. Backed up 3 ways. Cloud storage. External hard drive. Email drafts. The folder became routine. Like checking for leaks before you leave a job site. Automatic. Protective. I didn't know when I'd need it. Just knew eventually I would. Thanksgiving at Mom's house. The usual setup. Turkey, sides. Too many people in too small a space. Haley arrived an hour late with Theo and some guy she was dating. Nobody asked his name. He didn't stay for dinner. I got there early. Helped Mom prep. Fixed the garbage disposal that had been acting up. Replaced a leaking faucet in the bathroom. The stuff I always do. The disposal had been grinding weird for weeks. Mom mentioned it last time we talked. I brought the parts with me. Crawled under the sink while she prepped vegetables above me. 20 minutes later, running smooth. She thanked me. Kept chopping. The bathroom faucet was dripping. Had been for months based on the mineral buildup. I replaced the cartridge and cleaned the aerator. Haley breezed in with shopping bags. New clothes for Theo. New purse for herself. Kissed Mom on the cheek and asked what she missed. The bags were from expensive stores. I was washing my hands in the kitchen when she arrived. Mom's whole face lit up. Dad came in from the living room to say hello. They fussed over Theo. Complimented Haley's hair. Asked about her week. Nobody asked about mine. I'd mentioned the disposal was fixed. Mom nodded absently while admiring Theo's new shoes. Dinner was the usual performance. Haley talked about her boutique's Black Friday sales. How she was building something. Mom and Dad ate it up, nodded along. She had charts printed out. Bar graphs showing projected growth. Revenue targets. The works. Laid them on the table. Everyone leaned in to look. I ate quietly. Answered questions about work when asked. Nobody really listened. Then Theo got bored. Then this freaking minion actually flipped it onto my lap. Hot gravy burned through my jeans. Turkey hit the floor. Mashed potatoes splattered. The table went quiet. Theo giggled. Oops. Haley looked up from her phone. Saw the mess. Laughed. Oh my God, Theo. You're terrible. Not stern. Not apologetic. Amused. I stood up. Grabbed napkins from the counter. Started cleaning gravy off my pants. Boys will be boys, Haley said, smirking. Don't be sensitive. I kept cleaning. Didn't say a word while everyone stared. It's fine, Mom said. Nervous. Accidents happen. The kids sat there watching me clean. Not apologizing. Not looking sorry. Just watching. Haley scrolled through her phone. Someone made a comment about kids being wild. Everyone laughed. The moment passed for them. I finished cleaning, threw the napkins away, went to the bathroom and rinsed gravy out of my jeans with cold water. Something clicked. The part of my brain that diagnoses pipe problems locked onto a different kind of issue. I'd been funding Haley's lifestyle for years, and she sat there laughing while her kid dumped food on me like I was a joke. I walked back out, sat down, finished dinner, in silence. Haley kept talking. Nobody mentioned the plate. I left right after dessert. Told Mom I had an early call in the morning. She hugged me. Told me to drive safe. Haley didn't look up from her phone. Got a work call on the drive home. Water heater emergency. Spent 4 hours fixing it. Sat in my van afterward in the hardware store parking lot. Tonight, it was time to use the file I'd been building. Pulled out my laptop, started with the bank accounts. Downloaded every statement from 3 years back. Then credit cards. Downloaded statements. Payment histories. Public records next. Business filings. Court documents. All searchable. All public. I searched Haley's name. Found the boutique LLC. Status, delinquent. Annual report, not filed. State penalties, $1,200 and growing. Found a small claims judgment from her old landlord. $2,800 awarded to plaintiff. Still unpaid. Found parking tickets, 10 of them. Total, $1,650 with late fees. Took screenshots of everything. Haley wasn't just bad with money. She was ignoring every official obligation while maintaining an image of success. I pulled up cosigner removal policies, read them carefully, prepared documents. Then I researched credit disputes, fraud alerts, joint account separations, looked at Haley's Instagram, public profile, posts about entrepreneurship and building wealth. Recent photos showed new clothes, nice restaurants. The boutique she claimed was thriving. I screenshotted posts from the last 6 months, then cross-referenced post dates with my bank statements. Photo of Haley at an upscale brunch. Caption about success. Date, March 12th. My bank statement from March 10th. $500 transfer to Haley. Memo emergency rent. Photo of new designer bag. Caption about treating yourself. $350 transfer to Haley. Memo car payment. And so on. Every flex was funded by my money. I made a document, her posts on the left, my statements on the right. Let the dates do the talking. At 2 a.m., I closed the laptop. My coffee had gone cold. The hardware store parking lot was empty except for one other work van. I'd spent 3 hours building a case. Not for court. For destruction. Typed a response to Mom. Removing my name from every loan. You have 48 hours. Sent it. The phone exploded. Texts, calls, voicemails. I silenced it all. Climbed into the back of my van where I keep emergency blankets and a pillow. Set an alarm for 7 a.m. Slept better than I had in months. Banks open at 9. I walked in at 8:45 wearing clean work pants and a company polo. Brought my laptop. Brought my folder. Brought 2 years of documentation. The branch was one of those older buildings with marble floors and high ceilings. I signed in at the desk. Told them I needed to speak with someone about multiple accounts. The receptionist looked at her screen. Made a call. Told me to wait. A loan officer named Margaret sat me down in a small office. She had reading glasses on a chain and looked like she'd seen every family disaster twice. What can I help you with? I need to remove myself from several accounts. I have documentation. I opened my laptop. Showed her everything I'd been documenting. Her eyebrows went up. This is extremely organized. Then she pulled up my accounts. We went through them one by one. The car lease. I could request removal, but Haley would need to refinance on her own or find a new cosigner. Given her credit and income, that wasn't happening. Margaret pulled up Haley's credit report. She could see it because I was on the accounts. Score in the low 500s. Multiple late payments. High utilization. Collections activity. Her profile's going to make refinancing difficult, Margaret said carefully. What if she can't qualify? I asked. The vehicle would be subject to repossession. She'd have 45 days to refinance or return it. And my liability? Once we process your cosigner removal, you're no longer responsible for payments. The account stays on your credit report until it's paid off or resolved, but future missed payments won't affect your score. I signed the form. The store credit card. I could close it immediately and remove my name once the balance hit 0. Margaret checked the balance. Current charges. Recent activity. Charges at restaurants, retail stores, online shopping. Nothing that looked like business expenses. Close it now, I said. I'll pay off the balance. Margaret blinked. The balance is $6,100. I know. I've been tracking it. I'd been saving. Money I should have spent on upgrading my van or buying better equipment. Instead, I'd stockpiled it for this moment. I watched my savings drop. Felt nothing but relief. Account closed to new charges. Your name will be removed in 30 days. The line of credit. I could revoke my guarantee with written notice. The account would freeze while they reviewed Haley's ability to maintain it solo. Margaret went through the terms. The credit line was for business purposes. Required proof of revenue. Tax returns. Bank statements showing business income. Do you know if the primary account holder has these documents? She asked. No idea, I said. Not my problem anymore. What happens if she can't? The account closes and the balance becomes due immediately. 15 days from notification. I signed the form. Send notification today. She printed copies of every form, stapled them, slid them across the desk in a folder. You're very thorough, she said. Most people don't document like this. Most people trust their family. I stood, shook her hand. Professional. Left at 11:30. Checked my phone in the van. 46 messages. Mom, what have you done? Haley. The car. You're taking my car? More from Haley. Theo needs that car. I need it for work. You can't do this. I watched the progression. Rage to panic to begging. Classic. Pulled up my prepared document. Haley's Instagram post next to my bank statements. Added a title. Image versus reality. How success was funded. Didn't send it yet. That came later. First, I needed to confirm the damage. Drove to Mom's house. Time for the face-to-face. Mom opened the door before I knocked. Her face was red, eyes puffy. Dad stood behind her. Haley paced by the couch, phone in hand. Theo played with toys in the corner, oblivious. Get inside. The living room felt smaller than usual. TV off. Everyone positioned like they were ready for a fight. Explain yourself, Mom said. I set my laptop bag down. Stayed standing. Kept my keys in my pocket. I removed my name from Haley's debts. All of them. Why? Dad's voice. Quieter, almost curious. Because I'm done funding her image. Haley laughed, sharp and bitter. Over some Thanksgiving dinner drama? You're that petty? Not about the turkey, I said. About respect. About years of co-signing and covering and cleaning up messes while getting treated like a joke. Mom stepped closer. Family helps each other. I did help. I helped until helping became enabling. There's a difference. Enabling? Haley's voice cracked. I was building a business. Taking risks. You wouldn't understand because you just fixed toilets. The insult hung there. Dad shifted uncomfortably. Looked at Haley, then at me. Didn't say anything, but his expression changed. How much do you think you owe me? I asked. I don't know. Some. I'll pay you back. $38,400. The room went dead silent. I documented everything, I continued. 2 years of records, statements, screenshots, texts where you promised to pay me back. Haley's face changed. The confident mask cracked. You kept records? Obviously. Why wouldn't I track money? Mom was confused. That much? That much. Plus the credit damage, the stress, the midnight calls from banks because she missed payments. I pulled out my phone, showed them a summary, a simple list. Each debt, each date. Car payment coverage, $12,400 over 2 years. Credit card charges, $6,100. Emergency transfers, $11,200. Business credit line, $9,800. Total, $39,500. This is insane, Haley said, but her voice was weak. It's documented. Every claim has proof. Dad sat down heavy. Here's what happens next, I said. Matter of fact. The car needs refinancing in 45 days. Haley's credit won't qualify. She either pays it off, finds someone else stupid enough to co-sign, or surrenders it. But I need that car, Haley said. Her voice shook. Should have made the payments. The line of credit is frozen, I continued. Balance due in 15 days. That's $9,800. I don't have that kind of money. Not my problem. I opened my laptop, showed them the document. Her Instagram post next to my bank statements. Dates aligned, everything. Every flex was paid for with my credit. I said, you didn't build anything, Haley. You borrowed my foundation and called it your empire. Mom stared at the screen, hand over her mouth. I showed them more. Expired business licenses, unpaid court judgments, parking tickets with warrants, state compliance violations. The parking tickets were interesting, 10 of them, all from the same downtown area where her supposed boutique office was located. Except the address she'd given everyone for the boutique was a virtual office space. $29 a month for mail forwarding. No physical location. She'd been parking illegally and ignoring the tickets while telling everyone she had a real storefront. You're not just bad with money, I said. You're ignoring legal obligations while pretending everything's fine. In some jurisdictions, that's fraud. You wouldn't, Haley whispered. I already did. Filed the forms this morning. The clock's running. Nobody moved. But here's the interesting part, I said. Pulled out a printed list. These are people you claim to network with. The business contacts from your posts. I found their companies, found their emails. Haley went pale. Don't. You posted about meetings with boutique owners, partnership discussions, wholesale connections. I have dates. Want to bet those people have records of actual meetings? You wouldn't, she repeated. I also found your old landlord's contact info, the one who sued you, and the supplier you never paid for that inventory in your garage, and your previous business partner from the failed venture. I let that sink in. Let her imagine those conversations. I'm not contacting them, I said, unless you force me to. Force you? Mom's voice. If this stays quiet, it stays contained. Haley loses her financial safety net, but keeps her reputation. The car goes back. The credit tanks. That's between her and the banks. I looked directly at Haley. But if you come after me, if you try to spin this like I'm the villain, if you spread some story about how I abandoned the family, then I send this documentation everywhere. Everyone knows. That's blackmail, Haley said. No, blackmail requires demanding something. I'm just protecting my reputation from whatever story you're about to tell. Long silence. Here's the deal, I said. I'm out. Completely. My name, my money, my liability. You want to blame me? Fine. But if I hear my name getting dragged, everyone sees the receipts. Closed the laptop, picked up my bag. 45 days for the car, 15 for the credit line. Better start making calls. Then I started walking to the door. If you leave, don't ever come back, Mom said. I looked back. You already told me we're cut off. I'm just honoring your request. Walked out, closed the door, stood on the porch for a second, heard yelling start inside. Haley's voice high and panicked. Mom crying. Dad's low rumble trying to calm everyone. Got in my van, started the engine. Drove away while my phone lit up with notifications I ignored. I blocked Haley's number after 60 calls in 3 days. Let Mom and Dad's messages pile up. Changed all my passwords. Enabled two-factor authentication. Put fraud alerts on my credit. Took a few local jobs. Stayed busy. Gave me time to process. Replacing water heaters. Fixing leaky faucets. The kind of simple work that lets your mind wander. The work became therapy. I took a job fixing a kitchen sink at a rental property. The tenant was a single mom with 2 kids. She apologized for the mess. Toys everywhere. I told her not to worry. Fix the disposal. Replace the trap. When I gave her the bill, she counted cash carefully. Asked if she could pay half now and half next week. Don't worry about it, I said. Charged her cost of parts only. You've got kids to feed. She teared up. Thanked me 3 times. I left feeling better than I had in weeks. The notifications kept coming. I'd muted the family group chat. Checked it once a day just to track the damage. Day 4. Mom posted something on social media about loyalty and family betrayal. Vague enough to get sympathy without details. Some of her friends commented. Supportive messages, prayers. Mom responded with sad emojis and thank you replies. Building her narrative. I watched the performance but didn't engage. Day 6. Haley posted on Instagram. Long caption about betrayal and fake people. Comments full of support from people who didn't know the whole story. I screenshotted it too. Her caption talked about learning who your real family is, about people showing their true colors, about being strong for her son. The comments ate it up. Heart emojis, encouragement, people offering help. I checked the profiles of people who commented. Most were casual acquaintances, Instagram friends. Not one person who actually knew the full situation. Just an audience for her performance. Day 8. Dad texted from Haley's phone. Bank called. They want the car. Can you help? I replied, she has 45 days to refinance. That's policy, not my choice. Day 10. Mom called from a number I didn't recognize. Left a voicemail. Please. She's going to lose everything. Deleted it. Day 12. Haley showed up at a job site. I was replacing a burst pipe in a commercial building. Saw her car pull up through the basement window. Finished what I was doing. Took my time. Washed my hands. Climbed the stairs. She was waiting by my van. We need to talk. No, we don't. 5 minutes. You're on private property. I'm working. She flinched, looked around at the parking lot. Just undo it. Please, I'll sign anything. Payment plan. Whatever you want. Can't undo it. Papers are filed. The car is gone in 5 weeks. Then you have 5 weeks. How? My credit's destroyed. Nobody will co-sign. I looked at her. Saw the bags under her eyes. The wrinkled clothes. The way her hands shook. Felt nothing. Theo didn't mean... Theo learns what he sees. Someone taught him I was a joke. It was just... Done, I said. I'm done. Walked to my van. She grabbed my arm. I stopped. Let go. She did. You really hate me? She said. I don't hate you. I don't trust you. And I'm not funding someone I don't trust. Got in the van. Drove away. Watched her standing in the parking lot through my mirror. 2 days later, Dad texted. Just him. Can we meet? Coffee. Just you and me. I thought about it. Then I agreed. He was already there when I arrived. Sitting in a corner booth. Coffee. Tired eyes. I slid in across from him. You built a case, Dad finally said. I documented reality. Seems excessive. It's insurance. In case Haley rewrites history. Dad nodded. Slow. She's calling you heartless. I know. Your mother thinks you've changed. I stopped pretending. More silence. Dad stirred sugar into his coffee for too long. I knew, he said quietly. I looked up. I knew she was using you. I knew the payments weren't getting made. I knew she wouldn't pay you back. Why didn't you say anything? Because your mother loves her. And I love your mother more than I love being right. The honesty hit different than anger would have. I sat back. She's going to lose the car, Dad said. Maybe the apartment too. I know. I'm just not responsible for it. Dad looked out the window. Watched a truck pull in. Driver stretched. Headed inside. You did the right thing, Dad said. Don't tell your mother I said that. Something loosened in my chest. We talked about other things after that. Work. The van. Normal stuff. The kind of conversation we hadn't had in years, because Haley's drama always took over. He told me about a project he was planning. Asked if I had any leftover wood. I told him I'd check my scrap pile. Bring some by if Mom wasn't home. She'll cool off eventually, he said. Give her time. Maybe. When we left, he hugged me in the parking lot. Quick. Tight. Take care of yourself. You too. Got a text later from an unknown number. This is Haley's old business partner. Heard you might have info about unpaid inventory. I stared at it. Wondered how he got my number. Then realized Haley probably listed me somewhere without asking. Sent him photos of the inventory in Haley's garage. Gave him the supplier's contact information. Thanks, he replied. She owes me $4,500. Good to know I'm not alone. You're not? 3 weeks passed. Mom texted once. The car's gone. Haley had to surrender it. She's devastated. I read it. Felt tired relief. That's between her and the bank. No response. Month 2. The line of credit went to collections. Haley couldn't pay. They froze the account and started proceedings. I wasn't liable anymore. My documentation protected me. Collections agency sent me a letter. I sent them my cosigner removal forms and processing dates. Case closed on my end. Haley tried to add me to a new credit application. Got a notification from my credit monitoring. Disputed it immediately. Application denied. She tried twice more. Disputed both. Added fraud notes to my file. The attempts stopped. December brought more attempts. Haley tried new social media accounts. Blocked them all. Tried emailing. Filtered to spam. Showed up at another job site. Had the property manager remove her. The desperation showed. Her image cracked. People started asking questions. The truth spread without my help. Through Dad, I heard Haley blame me for everything. Told people I sabotaged her, that I was jealous, that I pulled support out of spite. Some believed her. Most did math. Truth doesn't need help. It just needs time. By Christmas, the final piece fell. The state penalties caught up. Business license revoked. LLC dissolved. Any future ventures required settling old debts first. She couldn't pay. Asked Mom and Dad. Dad said no. First time ever. Haley sent one final message, not to me, to Dad. He forwarded it. I'll never forgive Riley. I read it, smiled, and moved on. Because that's revenge disguised as consequences. You don't need forgiveness from people who wronged you. My credit score went up 40 points in 3 months. The joint accounts disappeared. The co-signed debts vanished. My financial profile cleaned up fast once Haley's mess wasn't attached to it. Started looking at better apartments. Places with garages for my van. Neighborhoods where I wouldn't hear gunshots at night. Started thinking about buying a house. Building equity instead of paying rent. I scheduled meetings with a mortgage broker. Looked at my finances properly for the first time in years. Without Haley's debts dragging everything down, I actually qualified for decent rates. The broker pulled my credit. Nodded approvingly. Said I had options. Started driving through neighborhoods on weekends. Looked at properties. Just a place with a garage. Maybe a small yard? Room for the van and my tools. A basement I could finish. Somewhere I could build something that was mine. Found a place in March. Small ranch house. 3-bedroom. Detached garage. Needed work but solid bones. Made an offer. Closed in 6 weeks. Moving day was quiet. Just me and my stuff. Packed my van. Made 3 trips. Set up my tools in the garage. Hung my license on the wall. First night in my own house, I ordered food. Sat on the floor because I hadn't bought furniture yet. Ate in silence. Felt peace I hadn't experienced in years. Haley's Instagram eventually came back. Different tone. Humble. Posts about learning from mistakes and starting over. Comments were supportive but fewer. The performance had lost its audience. I didn't follow her. Didn't need to. Heard updates through Dad when we met for coffee every few weeks. Those became regular. Theo asked about me sometimes. I'd send gifts for birthdays and Christmas. Cards with $20 bills. Little things that said I'm still here when you're old enough to understand. And that's it, Reddit. I realized that the best revenge is building a life that is untouchable to those who can't handle watching you thrive. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way. Story 2. My brother told security I wasn't family at the party I helped pay for. So I cut him off, posted the receipts, and watched his life fall apart. One eviction notice at a time. Hey Reddit. So I, 25 male, just found out what happens when you give too much for too long and finally ask for basic respect. You get kicked in the teeth by your own family. This isn't some sob story. This is me laying it all out after being treated like a walking wallet, while my younger brother Ryan, 22 male, got praised for breathing. Let me give you some quick context so you know I'm not just being dramatic. My family has been playing favorites since Ryan was old enough to whine for a new Xbox and get it. I was the mature one, the responsible one. Translation: do everything, get nothing. Example: when I turned 18, my parents made me start paying $350 a month to stay at home. Not a joke. Same room I grew up in. Same creaky bed. Same wallpaper from when I was 12. $350 a month or hit the road. So I paid. Worked part-time at a tire shop. Finished school. Handled it. Ryan turned 18. They literally gave him my old room. After I moved out. Bought him a flat screen and said, he's still finding his path. Finding his path looked a lot like sleeping in till noon and streaming Fortnite for 9 hours straight. I once came home to visit and found him wearing my hoodie, the same one I'd been looking for since Thanksgiving. I said, dude, that's mine. And he said, well, you don't live here anymore. I looked at my mom. She said, maybe don't leave stuff behind if it's that important. That was just normal. Anyway, I moved out at 21. Got a steady job in logistics, lived lean, saved like hell. And guess what? The second I hit stable ground, my parents started hitting me up for help. Groceries, power bill, help covering car repairs. Ryan's been having a hard time. I'd get this guilt trip call from my mom about how we've always supported you, now it's your turn to help us. And I did. Like an idiot, I did. I set up monthly auto deposits to cover Ryan's rent, $750 a month, for 3 years. On top of that, every college semester I chipped in $3,000+ for books and tuition. Never asked for payback. Never held it over anyone. Not once. I really thought I was doing something good. Something that mattered. Then I found out about the graduation party. It started with a photo dump in the family group chat. Long tables, balloons. A big sheet cake that said, "You did it, Ryan," in gold lettering. Someone even rented a party tent. No invite, no message, just pictures. No mention of the guy paying the bills. So I texted my mom. Me. Where's the party? Her. Brook Hill. Same place where we had Uncle Mike's anniversary. No apology. No. Oops. Sorry. Forgot to tell you. Just cold info. At first, I told myself maybe it was a mistake. Maybe they assumed I was working or busy. I figured I'd show up, surprise them, and it'd be fine. I put on a clean shirt, jeans with no holes, drove 45 minutes to Brook Hill, and pulled up to a house with 10 cars out front. Uncle Joe's SUV, Cousin Leo's Civic, Dad's truck. Everyone was there, except me. I walked up the driveway and instantly got stopped by 2 rent-a-guard types. "This is a private event," one said. "I'm his brother," I replied. Guy looked me up and down like I just climbed out of a sewer. The other guy asked for my name, walked off, and came back with Ryan, my mom, and my dad. Ryan looked like he stepped out of a cologne ad. Flashy shirt, slicked hair, gold chain, holding his phone like I was wasting his time. He glanced at me and said, "He doesn't belong here." Dead serious. I laughed, thought he was joking. Then my dad chimed in. "You actually showed up? After everything you've said?" I blinked. "I haven't said anything." My mom tried to smooth it over. "Louis, we just wanted today to be peaceful. No problems." I stared at them. "I pay his rent. I cover his tuition. And I'm the problem?" Ryan scoffed. "You didn't do that for me. You just wanted to make yourself feel important. I looked him dead in the eyes. Then you're welcome. And I turned around and left. My dad called after me. Maybe you should have asked if you were invited. I drove home without stopping. No gas, no drive-through, nothing. Walked into my apartment, kicked my shoes off, sat on my crappy old futon, and stared at the wall. Then I picked up my phone and typed one message. Starting next month, you'll need to cover your own rent. Best of luck. Sent it. Didn't even wait for a response. 2 hours later, someone knocked. It was Ryan. Still wearing the same clothes from the party, eyes puffy, looked like he hadn't slept. Please don't do this, he said. I can't afford it. You know I can't. I didn't say a word. Just stood there. Silent. For once in my life, I let him squirm. So yeah, Ryan standing in my doorway with puffy eyes, still in his little party outfit, like he hadn't changed since he got crowned king of the backyard barbecue. Please don't do this, he said again. I can't afford it. You know I can't. Right. Like that ever stopped him from ordering $17 chicken wings at 2 a.m. I didn't move. Just leaned against the doorframe and stared at him. I'd spent years helping this dude stay afloat while he treated me like background noise. I wasn't in a hurry to throw him another lifeline. He cleared his throat. You could have at least warned me. I woke up to my rent app saying payment failed. Yeah, that was the point. I let the silence drag just long enough to make him uncomfortable. Then he did what Ryan always does when things don't go his way. He tried to talk his way out of it. It's been a rough year, man. Exams, clinic hours. I barely sleep. Yeah, I cut in. I remember those Instagram stories. The late night tacos. The beach weekend. The random trip to Miami. That looked exhausting. He looked like he wanted to say something back, but couldn't figure out which lie to go with. Every month I paid your rent. Every term I helped with school. Every time Mom texted that the fridge was empty. Who covered it? I asked. You did, he mumbled. Right. And then you told security I wasn't family. He looked away. It wasn't like that. Exactly like that. Word for word. He sighed and stepped inside without asking. Sat on my couch like he owned the place. Same way he used to barge into my room back when we were teens, and I'd have to hide my stuff to keep it from disappearing. You live like this? He said, scanning my apartment like it was a museum exhibit for broke people. I raised an eyebrow. Yeah, this is what paying your own bills looks like. No comment. He rubbed his face. I just don't get why you're cutting me off now. You don't? I asked. You stood there while I got publicly humiliated at your party, and you let it happen. He opened his mouth, but I kept going. You never once told our parents to stop treating me like garbage. You let me pay your rent for 3 years and still called me a jealous loser in front of your friends. He went quiet, probably the first time in years. I could have ended it there, but I had one more thing to ask. Why weren't Grandma and Grandpa at the party? His face twitched. They weren't invited. By who? He hesitated. Mom didn't want them coming. Why? She said they always bring up old stuff. Grandpa talks too much. Grandma's too opinionated. You mean the man who gave Dad the down payment on the house? And the woman who helped raise both of you while Mom went back to school? He looked down. You didn't stop her, I said. I didn't agree either. That's not the same. He stood up like that was his cue to leave. Whatever, man. You've made your decision. Guess I'll figure it out. Yeah, I said. You will. He left without another word. An hour later, my phone buzzed. Voicemail. Hey, sweetheart, it's Grandma. We heard what happened. We weren't invited either. Your brother said some nasty things. Just know we're proud of you. We'll stop by tomorrow morning. I'm bringing coffee. I actually smiled. First time all week. Next day, 10:45 a.m. sharp, I see the silver Civic pull up. Grandma gets out in her floral top, holding a pink box like it's sacred. Grandpa's wearing his crusty old army hat, the one that drives Dad nuts. They walk in like they've been coming over forever. You don't owe them anything, Grandma says. You've done more than enough. Grandpa grunts. You're the only one in that family who ever did something real. We sit, eat muffins, drink coffee. No drama, no backhanded jabs. Just a quiet morning that felt more like family than the last 10 years combined. After they leave, I sit on the edge of my bed, holding the still warm cup, and feel something shift. Not anger, not revenge, just clarity. I'm done waiting for these people to respect me. I'm not asking anymore. At noon, I called my dad. He answers like he's thrilled to hear from me. Hey son, everything good? Grandma and Grandpa stopped by, brought muffins. Silence. They weren't at the party, I add. Yeah, well, there wasn't enough space. You know how Grandpa gets. I know exactly how he gets. He shows up. He tries to pivot. Anyway, everything okay? Just wanted to say, Starting now, I'm done paying Ryan's stuff. No rent, no tuition, nothing. Another pause. Then, the voice change. That fake soft guilt trip tone. Lewis, you're not struggling, right? No house, no kids? You've always been smart with money. So, because I didn't screw my life up, I'm supposed to fund the one who did? That's not what I'm saying. It's what you meant. We just wanted to give him a chance. I gave him one. For 3 years. You all just laughed while he told me I wasn't welcome. He doesn't say anything. I'll let Mom know myself, I add. Just figured I'd give you the heads up. Then I hung up. I thought that was it. But 20 minutes later, someone else knocked. It wasn't Ryan. It was Olivia, my cousin, holding a cheap plastic Tupperware and avoiding eye contact. Can I come in? She asked. She didn't wait for an answer. She sat down, looked around like she was touring a shelter, and said, I didn't know they were going to do that to you. When Ryan said that crap, I laughed. Not because I believed it. Just, I didn't know what else to do. I didn't respond. I'm moving out, she added. Told Aunt Karen I'm done with the family circus. Got accepted into a graduate program in Vermont. That caught me off guard. Olivia was always the one who played nice. The quiet cousin. Never stood up to anyone. Then she pulled out her phone. I'm still in one of Ryan's group chats. He doesn't know. She handed me her screen. I read it. Told y'all he'd show up. Guy still thinks he's one of us. Pays my bills and gets treated like a dog, LOL. I gave the phone back. No rage, no shock, just confirmation. I'm telling you this because people need to know who they're defending, she said. I nodded. Thanks. Then I opened the family group chat, dropped the screenshot with no caption, no explanation, just raw proof of what I'd been putting up with. Let them choke on it. The family group chat went dead after I dropped the screenshot. Not a single reply for almost 15 minutes. Then Aunt Martha quietly left the chat. No goodbye. No emoji. Just gone. Olivia texted me directly, Holy crap. I didn't reply. 5 more minutes passed. Then Uncle Wes posted a thumbs up emoji. Nothing else. Mom read the message and didn't respond. Dad didn't even open it. Ryan went silent. Nobody defended him. Nobody defended me either. Aunt Karen messaged me separately. Maybe this wasn't the best way to handle things. I sent back one line. Neither was letting him trash me while I paid his rent. 10 minutes later, I heard car doors outside. My parents' truck pulled into my lot. Both of them stepped out. Dad wore his usual work jeans. Mom carried a paper bag. They didn't knock right away. Then they did. I opened the door. We need to talk, Dad said. They stepped in. Looked around like they'd never seen my place. Same couch, same space heater, same cracked kitchen tiles. Mom handed me the bag. Brought you lunch. I set it on the table without touching it. Dad sat down. You embarrassed your brother, he said. You embarrassed yourself, I replied. He's hurt, Mom said. So was I. You exposed him. I repeated what he wrote. He was venting, Dad said. I was funding him. They didn't argue with that. They just sat there. We can't afford to cover his rent, Mom said. Then he should move back home. He says it's toxic there, she added. I didn't respond. Dad leaned forward. We're not asking for much. Just help until he finds a job. He had a job, I said. He quit. He said it was stressful. So's working 50 hours and getting insulted for it. They didn't look up. Fine, Dad said. How about a loan? No. We'll pay it back. You already used that line 3 years ago. They stood up. After all we did for you, Mom said. Yeah, I answered. I remember the rent bill when I turned 18. They left without another word. That night, Olivia sent me another screenshot. Ryan had started a new group chat. He's overreacting. He always wanted to be the victim. Let him post all he wants. Nobody cares. The new chat had half the cousins in it. A few had already left the main family thread. Olivia posted the screenshot into the main chat. Nobody responded. The next day, Ryan messaged me directly. Hope you're happy. You ruined everything. I didn't reply. That afternoon, Grandma called. Your parents called us. Said you're cutting them off. I'm cutting the money off, I said. You're allowed to. They want me to apologize. You won't. I'm not. Good. Later, Grandpa called. He told me to check my mailbox. Inside was a sealed envelope with 2 $50 bills and a short note. For every birthday we weren't invited to, from someone who remembers all of them. The next day, Dad called again. I spoke with your uncle. He said you showed him the screenshot. He was in the chat. He saw it himself. You made this public. He made it public when he sent it to 10 people. Dad hung up. 3 days passed. Ryan's apartment posted an eviction notice. Olivia sent me a picture of it taped to his door. I got a call from Aunt Karen that night. He needs help. He needs to fix it himself. He's your brother. He's not my problem. She hung up too. The next morning, my landlord knocked. Said someone had called pretending to be me, asking about my lease. I asked who. He said, some guy named Ryan. I filed a police report. That night, I moved my savings to a new account and changed every password I had. 2 days later, I got a text from a random number. Hope you enjoy living alone forever. I blocked it. Grandma dropped off more muffins. You don't have to keep defending yourself, she said. I'm not. I'm just done being useful to people who don't treat me like family. She nodded, left the box, and didn't stay long. By the weekend, half the family stopped talking to me. The other half messaged things like, you did the right thing, but never said it publicly. I cleared out the family group chat and left it. Next week, Ryan posted a GoFundMe. Title, Trying to Stay Afloat After Unexpected Setback. It had 3 donations. None from family. I reported it for false information. It got removed. The day after that, my mom texted, you made your point. I left her on read. That Sunday, I got a knock on my door. It was Uncle Wes. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a single note. Some of us always knew. We just didn't say it. Until now. There was no money inside. Didn't need any. Monday morning, I got a message from an old neighbor. He said Ryan was back home now, complaining about how everyone abandoned him. That he was telling people I cut the family off over a party. I sent him the screenshot. He left me on read. That night, Olivia tagged me in a post. Sometimes you don't need revenge. Just stop giving people free passes. She posted it with the picture of the party decorations, the ones I was never invited to. The next comment was from someone I didn't know. Damn, that dude who paid for everything and got iced out? I saw that story on Reddit. Yeah, she replied. That's my cousin. He finally stood up for himself. 2 days after Olivia posted the screenshot, Ryan called from a new number. I get it, okay? I messed up, he said. Yep. I didn't mean what I said in the chat. You typed it. It was just a joke. You're evicted. Still funny? Nothing. Then, can I crash at your place for a while? Just a week or two. No. Not even a few days? No. I'm your brother. You told security I wasn't. Click. 2 hours later, Mom sent a group message. Ryan's going through a lot right now. We're asking the family to support him. Everyone makes mistakes. Aunt Karen chimed in. Publicly humiliating your own blood isn't how we solve things. Olivia replied, neither is mocking the person who paid your bills. Uncle Wes left the chat. Cousin Leo DM'd me. Took guts. About time someone said it. I didn't reply. That night, Dad called. You need to apologize, he said. For what? For blowing this out of proportion. I showed proof. You aired it in public. He bragged in public. You're not acting like family. You stopped treating me like family years ago. He hung up. Next morning, I got pulled into a quick meeting at work. HR flagged an anonymous ethics complaint about financial coercion and family abuse. My company traced the IP to a burner tied to Ryan's apartment. I submitted the police report. They asked if I wanted to press charges. I said yes. I froze my credit, changed all account info, locked down my socials. That night, Olivia messaged me again. He's saying you turned Grandma against him. She wasn't on his side to begin with. Later, Olivia tagged me in a story. A picture of the family group chat exit screen. Caption. Sometimes cutting ties is how you stop bleeding. I didn't like it. Didn't repost. Just moved on. Saturday morning, a neighbor texted me a photo of my parents in his driveway, talking to his wife. Caption. Your folks are trying to clear your name. Thought you'd want a heads up. I didn't answer. An hour later, my doorbell rang. Certified letter from my parents. Typed message. Louis, your behavior is shocking. Families forgive, not exile. We're heartbroken you're choosing revenge over healing. No signature, just mom and dad. I printed it. Stapled a note to the front. You only cared when I stopped paying. Mailed it back the same day. 3 days later, Ryan posted a GoFundMe again. Same title. New goal, $1,200. 2 donations. One from some random friend. One from a burner account I recognized from our shared Netflix login. I reported it. Got taken down. Thursday afternoon, Grandma dropped by. Muffins again. Still trying to guilt you? She asked. They've shifted to pity now. You don't owe them softness. You gave them years. She handed me a folded note. It was Grandpa's handwriting. When a man earns peace, he doesn't trade it for noise. I taped it above my sink. Next week, HR followed up. Case was escalated. Formal complaint filed, charges pending. Ryan didn't respond to the notice. Uncle Wes called. He's blaming everyone but himself. I said, let him. You need anything? I'm good. Keep it that way. That weekend, Olivia messaged again. He's staying in your old room now. Figures. Still telling people you overreacted. I didn't. He knows that. He just doesn't want to say it. I didn't reply. 2 days later, I got another package. No return address. Inside was the same hoodie Ryan stole from me senior year. Folded. Washed. Still smelled like fabric softener. No note. I put it in the donation bin outside my building. Next morning, voicemail from Aunt Karen. Your parents are devastated. Your brother's not eating. You proved your point. Now let it go. I deleted it. Tuesday afternoon, Olivia posted another update. This time a photo of her grad school acceptance letter. Caption: Some of us move forward. Top comment was from Grandma. And some finally stand still long enough to grow. Next morning, I got one last message from Ryan. Thanks for ruining my life. Hope you're proud. I deleted it. No reply. No need. The week after Ryan's final text, Grandma called. He's in the basement now, she said. Sulking, whining, still blaming everybody but the one in the mirror. Sounds familiar. Your mom tried guilt. Your dad went silent. Now they're testing shame. I'm not biting. You shouldn't. That night, Olivia sent a screenshot from the cousins group chat. Ryan had written, I don't care what anyone says, Louis should have had my back. He knows how hard things have been for me. Nobody replied. 3 cousins quietly left the chat. Uncle Wes texted me separately. You want help changing your locks? Already done. Friday morning, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just a folded sheet of notebook paper. Scrawled in Sharpie, you'll always be the villain when you stop playing the fool. Attached was a printed photo of me at my college graduation with the word ungrateful scribbled in red across my face. I didn't even flinch. Just dropped it into a folder with the rest of the garbage for the police report. Monday, I got an email from the company's legal department. Your brother filed 3 fake anonymous tips through our whistleblower portal, all tied to a masked IP, but the trail came back to his building. Do you want to testify? Yes. They served him papers the next day. Grandma called again. He tore it up in front of your father, then stormed out yelling about how you destroyed the family name. What did Dad do? Told him to clean the garage? Ryan screamed and slammed the door like a toddler. That Sunday, Olivia moved out. No drama, just loaded her car and left. Before she drove off, she left a note on the fridge that said, Thanks for showing me that self-respect isn't betrayal. She texted me later that night. New apartment, new job lined up, new chapter. We didn't talk about Ryan. We didn't need to. Next morning, Ryan posted a fresh GoFundMe. New name. Same playbook. My family has abandoned me in my time of need. I'm not perfect, but I deserve a second chance. Please help me start fresh. It had 2 donations before it got reported and pulled down. This time, I didn't report it. Someone else did it faster. Midweek, I swung by the old house to grab Grandpa's old toolbox from the garage. I didn't call ahead, didn't knock. Just walked in, grabbed it, and left. As I was walking back to my car, Ryan stood at the upstairs window, arms crossed like a bitter extra in a high school play. Just watched. Didn't come out. Didn't say a word. 3 days later, Olivia sent another screenshot. Ryan had posted to his story. Sometimes the ones closest to you are the first to leave you bleeding. Nobody replied. Grandma visited the following weekend. Dropped off leftovers in a small tin box. This was your uncle's, she said. He wanted you to have it. Inside was a note he wrote years ago, before he moved away for good. There's always one kid in the family who does everything right and still gets treated like he doesn't belong. Don't let that keep you trapped. Leave the guilt behind. I pinned it on my fridge right next to my rent receipt. The following Tuesday, the company's legal team emailed again. Case closed. Cease and desist acknowledged. You're clear. I replied with one line. All debts closed. That evening, I deleted Ryan's number for good. Then my parents. Then Aunt Karen's. Blocked every number that didn't respect the boundaries I set. That night, I made dinner in my apartment. No guilt. No noise. No second guessing. I sat down, ate quietly, and didn't think once about who wasn't there. It was finally over. 6 months later, life moved on. Fast. The raise came in first. Then the promotion. I moved into a better place, closer to the city, quieter, without the constant echo of guilt in the walls. I didn't announce it. No photos, no status updates, just keys, boxes, and peace. Grandma knew, though. She helped me hang the curtains and left a new coffee maker on the counter. No more weak mornings, she said. The company issued an official memo. The harassment claim had been dropped. No further action needed. I printed a copy and shoved it in the folder with the rest. Closed. Filed. Done. I saw Ryan one more time, by accident. He was working part-time at a tire shop off the highway, pushing carts and checking tread. I pulled in for a rotation. He didn't recognize the car. As I was paying, he walked out with a stack of receipts in his hand, saw me, and froze. I didn't wave. Didn't nod. Just took the keys and left. An hour later, Olivia texted me. He said you looked smug. Wasn't. Good. She got accepted into her graduate program in Texas. Full scholarship. Said she's staying with an old friend until she finds her own place. You're the only reason I didn't become one of them, she told me. You did that yourself. Nah. You lit the fuse. My parents tried to call again in January. New numbers. No voicemails. Just the silent spam of desperation. Uncle Wes sent one final message. They're saying you abandoned family. I didn't. I escaped. He hearted it. Never replied again. In March, Mr. Reynolds, my old high school history teacher, reached out. Saw your name in an alumni write-up. Glad to see someone turned out normal. Appreciate it. Still fixing cars on the side? Nope. Building something now. He sent a thumbs up emoji. That was it. I started my own business a month later. Consulting, logistics, private contracts. Boring to most people. Freedom to me. Grandma gave me the down payment. You're the only one who ever showed up when it counted. She didn't mean holidays. Didn't mean birthdays. She meant hospital runs. Roof repairs. Doctor bills. The stuff nobody posts about. Ryan's GoFundMes kept popping up. Different names, different lies. Same pleas. They'd get flagged within a week. He'd try again. People caught on eventually. Nobody shared the links anymore. Aunt Karen stopped trying to mediate. Olivia told me she went full meltdown after her HOA fined her for loud yelling on her front porch. Guess she found a new cause. Olivia visited once before leaving for Texas. She brought me a framed copy of our group chat screenshot, the one where I got kicked out and then proved them all wrong. Caption, receipt number 1. It hung next to my desk. My parents sent a letter on my birthday. Typed, formal, cold. We're sorry you feel hurt by our actions. We hope someday you can find it in your heart to let go of this anger and reunite with your family. I didn't respond. Didn't burn it. Just dropped it in the shredder. No theatrics. I checked on the old neighborhood once more. The house looked the same. Faded siding, overgrown lawn, 2 broken porch lights. Familiar sadness. I didn't knock. Didn't slow down. Just kept driving. Olivia sent a photo the day she left. 1 suitcase, 1 backpack, 1 ticket. Caption, leaving behind the noise. I didn't reply. Just sent a red check mark. She got it. By April, the business had 3 clients and steady cash flow. I hired a part-time assistant. Kid from a trade school, smart, didn't ask dumb questions. Paid him weekly. Showed up on time. Didn't complain. Ryan? Heard he lost the tire shop job. No call, no show 3 times in 1 week. The manager told Grandma he just disappeared. No explanation. No warning. He showed up outside my building once. Hoodie, hands in pockets. Fake I'm just in the area. Look. Security buzzed me. I told them to send him away. He left without saying anything. Olivia sent a final update from Texas. Settled. Class is hard. Freedom better. I replied, solid. Don't look back. She sent a photo of her front door. Simple, quiet, clean. No drama on the porch. No yelling behind the walls. In June, my company hit its first milestone. Broke even. All bills paid. No debt. No favors owed. I celebrated by replacing the old couch. The one I slept on after working double shifts to pay my parents' rent. New one's bigger. Comfier. Mine. I didn't post about it. Didn't send photos. Just sat down and turned the volume up. Last I heard, Ryan moved in with some friend of a friend. Crashed on their couch. No job. No plan. Still blaming everyone but the guy in the mirror. And my parents? They're still telling anyone who listens that I changed. They're right. I changed the locks. Changed the number. Changed my priorities. That's what happens when you stop letting people drain you. You get lighter. And they get louder. But noise never built anything. Work did. 6 months later, things had shifted. Not in some cheesy, look how far I've come kind of way. Just real change. Quiet, steady, the kind you don't post about because you're too busy living it. The raise came through. Then a promotion. I moved into a better apartment closer to the city. No roommates, no noise, no guilt humming through the walls. I didn't tell anybody. No Instagram tour, no announcement. Just keys, boxes, and silence. Grandma found out because she always does. She helped hang the curtains and left a new coffee machine on the counter. No more weak mornings, she said, patting the thing like it was sacred. I got an official company memo. The harassment complaint Ryan filed was dropped. No evidence. All ties traced back to his IP. I printed a copy, filed it in a folder labeled stupid, and forgot about it. I saw him again by accident of all places. Tire shop off the highway. He was pushing carts, looked like he hadn't slept in a week. I needed a tire rotation. He didn't recognize my car at first. When he finally saw me through the glass, he froze. Didn't wave, didn't speak. Just stood there with that same fake tough guy face he used to make when we were kids, and he got caught lying. I paid, took the receipt, left. Olivia texted me an hour later. He said you looked smug. Wasn't, I replied. Good. She got into grad school in Texas. Full scholarship. Staying with a friend until she finds a place. She said, "You're the reason I didn't become one of them." I told her, "You chose that yourself." Nah, you lit the fuse. My parents tried calling again in January. New numbers. No voicemails. Just desperate silence that smelled like guilt. Uncle Wes sent one final message. "They're saying you abandoned family." I didn't. I escaped, I replied. He hearted it. Never texted again. Reynolds, my old high school teacher, emailed me. "Saw your name in an alumni write-up. Glad someone turned out normal." "Appreciate it," I said. "Still fixing cars?" "Nope. Building something now." He sent back a thumbs-up emoji. That was it. I started my own business the next month. Logistics, contracts, consulting. Boring to most. But it was mine. Grandma fronted the down payment. "You're the only one who ever showed up," she said. She didn't mean birthdays. She meant hospital visits. Doctor bills, roof repairs, real stuff. Ryan's GoFundMes kept popping up. New names, same lies. They'd get flagged within a week. Someone would report them before I even saw them. People were catching on. Aunt Karen finally gave up pretending to be neutral. Olivia told me she melted down when her HOA fined her for yelling on the porch. Olivia stopped responding to her. Before leaving for Texas, Olivia dropped by. Brought a framed copy of the group chat screenshot, the one where Ryan bragged about me being a dog on a leash. She'd captioned it, "Receipt number 1." It hung next to my desk. My birthday came. My parents sent a typed letter. "We're sorry you feel hurt by our actions. We hope someday you can let go of this anger and reunite with your family." I didn't burn it. Didn't read it twice, just shredded it. No drama. I swung by the old neighborhood once to grab Grandpa's toolbox from the garage. Didn't call ahead, didn't knock. Just walked in, grabbed it, and left. As I walked back to my car, Ryan stood at the window upstairs, arms folded like a dollar store Bond villain. Didn't come outside, didn't speak, just watched. 3 days later, Olivia sent another screenshot. Ryan posted to his story, "Sometimes the ones closest to you are the first to leave you bleeding." Nobody replied. Grandma stopped by again. Left leftovers in a small tin box. "This was your uncle's. He wanted you to have it." And inside was a handwritten note. "There's always one kid who does everything right and still gets treated like an outsider. Don't let that keep you stuck. Leave the guilt behind." I taped it to the fridge next to my rent receipt. The irony didn't miss me. Later that week, legal emailed me. "Case closed. Cease and desist acknowledged. You're clear." I replied, "All debts closed." Then I deleted Ryan's number, then my parents', then Aunt Karen's. Blocked everyone who crossed a line. No second warnings. I made dinner that night in peace. Ate in silence, no anxiety, no rage, just quiet. That was new. 6 months passed. Clients stacked up. Revenue steady. I replaced the old couch. The one I'd slept on when I was paying rent at 18. The new one was bigger. Comfier. Mine. Didn't post a picture. Didn't send a snap. Just sat down on it, leaned back, and turned the volume up. Last I heard, Ryan moved in with some random friend. Couch surfing. No job. Still pointing fingers. Still. My parents? Still telling anyone who'd listen that I changed. And they're right. I changed the locks. Changed the number. Changed the damn rules. Story 3. You need to move out immediately. I'm pregnant and don't want strangers around my baby. This house belongs to us, not you. She said that in my own kitchen. Then she changed the locks while I was at work. And my brother backed her up, so I kicked them out. Hey Reddit! I thought living with family meant loyalty and support. Turns out, it just meant getting walked on until I finally drew the line. Before it all blew up, let me start from the beginning. My name's Ethan. I'm 28, and for the last 7 years, I've lived in the same house with my Uncle Robert and Aunt Linda. And for the last 3 of those years, with my older brother Noah and his wife Amber. It's not some big family estate, just a 2-story house on a quiet street with a squeaky screen door and a yard that never looks quite finished. Still, it's home. When I was 19, my parents died in a car accident. One day I was a college sophomore worrying about exams, And the next I was sitting in an empty dorm room not knowing what came next. Uncle Robert, my dad's older brother, showed up, handed me a cardboard box and said, "You're not doing this alone. Pack your stuff." I moved in with him and Aunt Linda, finished school, and tried to rebuild my life. Robert's a steady man. Quiet, hands always busy fixing something. Aunt Linda works part-time at the library, hums while she cooks, and calls me kiddo like I'm still 10. They never had kids, so when Noah and I moved in, they treated us like their own. Noah's 3 years older, the type who fills a room the second he walks in. Loud, confident, always sure he's right. We used to be close, but after he married Amber, things changed. She's organized to the point of obsession. Everything labeled, color-coded, and her way. Within a week of moving in, she'd rearrange the entire living room. She's polite, but you can tell she likes control. The house isn't big, but it works. Robert and Linda have the downstairs room. Noah and Amber the big one upstairs, and I've got the smaller one across the hall. There's a fourth bedroom up there too, but it's basically a glorified closet. Uncle Robert turned it into a cramped office years ago with a wobbly desk and a filing box. My space is simple. Desk, dresser, and a window that looks out on an old maple tree. The fan hums at night, the floor creaks near the closet, but it's peaceful. What most people don't know, what Amber definitely doesn't, is that the house is mine. I was 19 when my parents died. 2 years later, at 21, I bought this place with the life insurance. It wasn't endless money, but it covered a modest house and a cushion. Uncle Robert helped me through the paperwork because I was too young to handle it alone. I didn't want to live by myself back then, and they didn't want me drifting around, so we all stayed together. I've lived here 7 years. Noah and Amber moved in 3 years ago. I paid for everything, taxes, utilities, maintenance, but I never made it a thing. We were family. Life settled into a rhythm. Aunt Linda woke up early to make breakfast. Uncle Robert tinkered in the garage. Noah worked long hours. And Amber spent her evenings organizing or looking up home projects online. I handled repairs and yard work. It wasn't perfect, but it was stable. Every now and then, Amber would give me that look, half polite, half annoyed, like she couldn't figure out why I was still around. Once she asked, "Ever thought about getting your own place?" I laughed it off, said I was saving up. The truth was, I just didn't see a reason to leave. The last few months had been rough. I was stuck in a tech support job that paid the bills but drained my patience. I wanted something that matched my degree, something that didn't make me dread Mondays. I'd been applying quietly for months, usually during lunch breaks. Most places never replied. Then one Monday evening, while helping Aunt Linda unload groceries, my phone buzzed with an email. Subject: Offer letter, New Horizons Tech. I opened it, read the first line, and froze. $92,000 a year. Full benefits. I must have read it 4 times before Uncle Robert noticed me standing still. "You okay?" he asked. "I got the job," I said. His face broke into a grin. "You did it, kid." He called for Aunt Linda, who nearly dropped a bag of apples when she heard. "We're celebrating," she said, already pulling ingredients out of the fridge. Noah texted a few minutes later. "Congrats, man. Proud of you." Amber followed with, "That's wonderful news. We should celebrate as a family." For the first time in a long time, everything felt right. Aunt Linda was humming, Uncle Robert was smiling, and the house smelled like dinner. For a moment, I thought maybe things were finally turning around. I didn't know it yet, but that celebration would be the last night this house ever felt like home. Uncle Robert went all out for dinner that night. He said it was to celebrate my new job, but he just likes having a reason to cook. By 6, the whole house smelled like roasted chicken and garlic bread. Aunt Linda had set the table with the good dishes, the ones she keeps wrapped in paper most of the year, and even folded the napkins into triangles. Noah got home earlier than usual, which was already unusual. He's usually dragging himself in half dead from work, muttering about traffic. This time he was actually smiling. Amber came in behind him, perfect hair, perfect clothes, holding a dessert box like it was a trophy. "I picked up something sweet," she said, like the hero of the evening. Uncle Robert clapped me on the back. "You earned this, kid." Aunt Linda was already beaming and telling everyone how proud she was. Noah joked about borrowing money from me now, and we all laughed. It felt easy, like the old days before everyone got older and quieter. Halfway through dinner, Amber went silent. Usually she's steering every conversation, but that night she just stared at her plate, waiting for her moment. Then, as Uncle Robert started talking about fixing the deck, she put her fork down and said, "Actually, I have something to share too." Everyone turned. Her voice lifted. "I'm pregnant." The room exploded with noise. Noah jumped up, grinning like a kid, hugging her so hard her chair almost tipped. Aunt Linda cried. Uncle Robert wiped his eyes and said, "Well, I'll be damned." For a few minutes, everyone was talking at once. Names, baby showers, nursery colors. I was honestly happy for them. Noah's wanted this for a while, and seeing him that happy made me smile. I congratulated them both, and for a while it felt like a good night. Then Amber's tone changed. She straightened up, clasped her hands on the table, and said, "There's something else we need to talk about." The noise stopped cold. She looked straight at me. "Ethan, now that we're starting a family, I think it's time you moved out." I thought she was joking. I laughed. "Move out? Why would I do that? There's plenty of space here." Amber didn't laugh. "There was space, but once the baby's here, things will change. We'll need privacy. It's not appropriate for someone outside our immediate family to be living here." Uncle Robert froze mid-bite. Aunt Linda's fork hit her plate. I tried to stay calm. "Amber, this house has 4 bedrooms. One's a cramped office, sure, but it could be a nursery by the weekend. I can help when the baby comes. I'll stay out of the way." She smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "It's not about space, Ethan. It's about boundaries. I'll be recovering, feeding the baby, moving around however I need to. I can't do that with another man in the house." That word, another, landed hard. "I'm your husband's brother," I said. "You've known me for years. We've all lived together without issues." Amber crossed her arms. "Exactly. It's gone on too long. You're almost 30. Don't you think it's time you stood on your own? It's not healthy to depend on family forever." Uncle Robert's face went red. "Amber, that's enough." She ignored him. "No, it's not. Everyone's been thinking it. I'm just saying it out loud. He's been living here like it's his own place. We're starting our family, and it's not fair to keep sharing space like this." Noah shifted uncomfortably. "Babe, maybe not now." Amber cut him off. "Why not now? I want peace in this home. I can't have that with someone else taking up space meant for my child." I clenched my jaw. "Amber, I help pay for things." She scoffed. "What bills? You don't pay rent?" That hit me harder than I expected. "That's not how this house works," I said quietly. She leaned forward, voice sharp. "Maybe that's the problem. Maybe it should." Noah looked down at his plate, not saying a word. That silence from him hurt more than anything she'd said. Aunt Linda finally spoke up. "Amber, that's rude. This is Ethan's home too." Amber turned to her with that fake polite smile she uses when she's about to twist the knife. "I know, Aunt Linda, but it's not normal for a grown man to live like this. You've even said it's crowded. You want things calm once the baby's here, right?" Aunt Linda's face fell. Amber had used her words against her perfectly. Uncle Robert slammed his palm on the table. "Enough, Amber! You don't talk to family that way in my house." Amber shot back instantly. "Our house," she said, stressing the word. "Our family's house. And I'm part of it now." Noah finally looked up. "She's not wrong, Uncle. Maybe Ethan should start looking for his own place. It's time." It felt like the air got sucked out of the room. I stared at my brother. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Uncle Robert's voice dropped low. "Noah, remember whose roof you're under." Amber stood, chair scraping the floor. "You're all making me the bad guy for saying what's obvious. I'm not living like this once the baby's here." She took her plate to the sink, rinsed it, then turned back with a tight smile. "We'll talk later." She walked upstairs like she hadn't just set fire to the table. Noah followed her without a word. Uncle Robert rubbed his face. Aunt Linda reached for my hand, but I just shook my head. The smell of roasted chicken suddenly made me sick. When Noah came back down, he said quietly, "She didn't mean it like that." I nodded once, stood up, and started clearing plates. No one spoke again the rest of the night. But dinner the next night felt like a meeting, not a meal. Uncle Robert told everyone to sit down, said we needed to clear the air. I knew exactly what that meant, so I went upstairs, grabbed the thick manila folder from my desk, and brought it with me. Amber started first, because of course she did. "I just want to make sure we're all being realistic," she said. "We can't build a family in a house that doesn't feel like ours. I shouldn't have to tiptoe around someone else in my own home." Uncle Robert's jaw tightened. "It's not just your home." She smiled in that fake sweet way. "Well, it's not exactly Ethan's either. He's just staying here. Temporarily. It's been what, 7 years now?" I didn't even bother looking at her. I put the folder on the table, flipped it open, and said, "Let's make something clear before this goes any further." The sound of the papers hitting the table made everyone pause. Inside were old check copies, bank statements, and the house deed. I pushed the first stack toward Uncle Robert. "These," I said, "are 14 months of checks I wrote to Uncle Robert and Aunt Linda after Mom and Dad died. 14 months. $76,500 total. I'd added up what market rent, utilities, and groceries would have cost me alone, and tried to pay it forward. Grief math. And too much. Not one of them was ever cashed. Aunt Linda's hands went still. Her eyes got glassy. Oh, Ethan. Uncle Robert's voice was low but steady. We couldn't take money for helping family, son. You needed a home. That was never about money. Amber let out a small, mocking laugh. That's touching and all, but what does that have to do with anything right now? I looked her straight in the eye. Everything. Because that money, along with my parents' life insurance, $400,000, paid for this house, every cent of it. I bought it 7 years ago for $275. The rest went into repairs, taxes, and an emergency fund. Her fake smile twitched. Wait, are you saying you own this house? I'm not saying it, I replied, sliding the deed across the table. I'm showing it. Noah blinked like he didn't understand the words. Hold on. You never told me that. I didn't think I needed to. We're family. I didn't see a reason to brag about paperwork. Amber's expression hardened fast. You never said you owned it. Everyone called it the family house. Uncle Robert sighed. Because that's what we are. A family. Didn't think we needed to spell out who paid what. Amber turned to Noah. So all this time we've been living under his roof? Like tenants? Her tone was sharp enough to cut glass. I leaned forward slightly. You've been living in your brother-in-law's home, yes. A home you just told me I didn't belong in. Amber's eyes narrowed. That's manipulative. I didn't mean it like that. You said you wanted me gone because this wasn't your house. Now you know the truth. It's not yours at all. Noah ran a hand through his hair. Ethan, you should have said something sooner. People already think it's weird you still live here. They ask me about it all the time. I kept my tone even. I didn't realize your coworkers got to vote on where I live. He frowned. You know how it looks. I don't care how it looks, I said flatly. I care about what's real. I thought we were a household, not a scoreboard. Amber scoffed loudly. That's easy to say when you're sitting on the deed. I looked right at her. Amber, you've been here 3 years and already talk like you built this place. You rearrange furniture, pick colors, and act like the rest of us are lucky to breathe your air. I've kept quiet to keep peace, but not anymore. You don't get to lecture me about ownership or boundaries in a house I paid for. Her jaw clenched. You're unbelievable. You think throwing money around makes you superior? No, I said calmly, but it does mean I don't answer to someone who just showed up and started making demands. Noah's voice rose slightly. Hey, that's my wife you're talking to. And she's talking to me like I'm a squatter in my own home. I shot back. Uncle Robert raised a hand. Enough, both of you. He looked at Amber. You owe this man an apology. Amber laughed under her breath. For what? Being honest? Aunt Linda looked heartbroken. Amber, please. You've crossed a line. Amber stood abruptly, chair scraping hard against the tile. No, what's crossed the line is everyone acting like I'm the problem. I'm not apologizing for wanting a real home for my child. I stayed seated, calm but firm. You already have one, Amber. You're just not in charge of it. Her face went pale, then red. You'll regret talking to me like that. I don't regret standing my ground, I said. Not anymore. The room went quiet again. Noah stared at the table, not saying a word. Aunt Linda looked like she wanted to cry. Uncle Robert leaned back slowly, rubbing his temples. All right, he muttered. We've said enough for one night. Amber stormed upstairs, her heels hitting the steps like hammer strikes. Noah hesitated, then followed. The door slammed not long after. I gathered the papers back into the folder, slid the deed to the top, and stood up. That's settled, I said quietly. Aunt Linda touched my arm. Ethan, are you sure this was the right way? Yeah, I said. It was past due. Uncle Robert nodded once. No argument left in him. I went upstairs, locked my door, and set the folder on my desk. I thought about calling a friend to crash on their couch for a night, just in case things got ugly. Instead, I left my phone on silent and sat by the window. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a guest in my own home. Work the next day dragged. I couldn't focus. My brain kept replaying Amber's voice, Noah's silence, and Uncle Robert's face from the night before. By 5, I shut my laptop, grabbed my bag, and decided I was done thinking about it. Uncle Robert and Aunt Linda were visiting friends that evening, so the house should have been quiet. Only Amber's car sat in the driveway when I pulled in. The porch light flickered like always. Everything looked normal until I slid my key into the lock, and it didn't turn. I tried again. The key jammed halfway. Then I noticed it. A brand new lock. My gut tightened. I circled around to the back door. Same story. Fresh lock, new handle, metal shavings on the steps. That's when I knew. She'd actually changed the locks. As I was checking the windows, one upstairs slid open. Amber leaned out, arms crossed, wearing that smug little smile. "You can't come in," she said. "I changed the locks." I stared up. "You did what?" "You heard me. You can't kick a pregnant woman out of her home. This is my house now. You're not welcome here." I kept my voice level. "Amber, open the door. You've got 30 seconds before I call the police." She laughed. "Go ahead. I'll tell them you threatened me." Then she slammed the window shut. I stood there a few seconds, breathing slow. The porch light buzzed overhead. Then I walked back to my car, pulled the deed folder from the glove box, and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? "My name's Ethan Moore," I said. "I'm the legal owner of a house. Someone who lives here changed the locks and locked me out." The dispatcher asked for the address and told me to wait. "Officers are on the way. Don't try to enter." I sat in my car, watching the windows. A shadow moved upstairs, her pacing, probably thinking she'd won. 20 minutes later, a patrol car pulled up. 2 officers stepped out, calm and professional. This was a civil standby. They weren't there to take sides, just to keep the peace while I got back inside. One nodded to me. "Evening, sir. You the homeowner?" "Yes." "Ethan Moore," I said, handing over the folder. "Deed, ID, and tax records. My brother's wife changed the locks." He flipped through the papers, nodded. "All right. You live here full time?" 7 years. "Anyone else inside?" "My brother's wife. Maybe him too. My uncle and aunt are out." The officer sighed like he'd seen it before. "Okay. She can't legally lock you out. We'll make sure you get inside." They walked up and knocked hard. "Police!" "Open the door." After a pause, Amber opened it. Her hand rested on her stomach like a shield. "Thank God you're here," she said quickly. "I'm pregnant and scared. He's trying to throw me out." The older officer raised his hand. "Ma'am, we've verified ownership. This property belongs to Mr. Moore. You can't change the locks on the owner. That's unlawful exclusion." Amber's face tightened. "That's not fair. My husband and I live here too." "You may live here," the officer said, "but you're not the owner. You're not being evicted tonight, but you can't bar him from entry. Unlock the door or hand over the keys." Her jaw clenched. "You can't make me." The younger officer stepped forward. "We can, or we file a report for illegal lockout. Your choice." Amber muttered something under her breath, then opened the door wider. The officer turned to me. "You can enter, Mr. Moore. If you want her gone permanently, you'll need a formal eviction." "Understood," I said, walking past her. Amber glared but didn't speak. The older cop looked between us. "No more lock changes, shouting, or threats. If we get another call, someone's leaving in cuffs." They left a few minutes later. Amber stood by the stairs, arms crossed, eyes full of hate. "You try this again," I said quietly, "and next time it'll be permanent." She didn't answer, just turned and stomped upstairs. I checked the doors and windows, making sure everything was secure, then sat at the kitchen table. 10 minutes later, Noah's car pulled in. He walked in looking tired. "What happened?" "Your wife changed the locks." "Police handled it." "You called the cops?" he snapped. "Yes," I said evenly. "She crossed a line. She's pregnant, Ethan. You could have—" "I handled it," I cut in. "You both live here because I allow it. Don't forget that again." He didn't answer. By 10, a locksmith had rekeyed every door. I handed Noah a new key and left one for Amber on the hall table in a labeled envelope. I kept the spares with the deed. The house went quiet. Same creaky floors, same porch light, same smell of last night's dinner. But everything felt different now. It wasn't our house anymore. It was mine again. But Uncle Robert and Aunt Linda came home while I was still sitting at the kitchen table, paperwork spread out beside me. Aunt Linda noticed the new locks first. "Ethan, what happened?" I told them everything. Amber changing the locks, me calling the police, her acting like the victim. Just the facts. Nothing extra. Uncle Robert's face tightened. When I finished, he stood up. "You did what I should have done months ago," he said. "That woman's been testing limits since day one." Aunt Linda looked heartbroken. "We should have been here." "It's handled," I said calmly. But we all knew it wasn't. The next morning, the house was quiet but heavy. Noah's truck was gone, Amber's shoes by the door. Aunt Linda made breakfast like always, but nobody talked. Upstairs, a door slammed. Amber came down a few minutes later, grabbed coffee, and left without looking at anyone. The next few days were worse. No yelling, just cold silence. Noah avoided me. Amber kept to herself except for the sticky notes she left about shared spaces and boundaries. Aunt Linda finally said one night while washing dishes, "She's trying to push you out, Ethan." "I know," I said. "I'm just waiting to see how far she'll go." It didn't take long. That Friday, I came home from work, and something smelled different. Bleach. The kitchen looked too clean. I opened the fridge and stopped. Half my groceries were gone, and my meal prep containers were missing. A note on the fridge read, "We need space for baby supplies. Hope you understand." I set the note on the counter. The pantry was the same. My food shoved aside, replaced with baby formula and wipes. Then I saw boxes in the living room. My boxes. Amber and Noah were sorting through them like it was moving day. Amber looked up, smiling like she was doing me a favor. "We're reorganizing," she said. "You have your room upstairs. We need to make the house ready for the baby." Noah didn't look up, just kept folding blankets. I stood there a moment. "You're packing my things. In my house." Amber crossed her arms. "We're setting boundaries. This place isn't just for you anymore. Once the baby's here, things will change." "You're right," I said, walking past her. I took my parents' photo from one of the boxes and put it back on the shelf. "You just made them change." Noah started. "Come on, man." I cut him off. "You let her talk down to everyone for months. Now you're letting her touch my stuff? That's the last line." Amber scoffed. "You can't kick your brother out. Be serious." I met her eyes. "Watch me." Her smirk faded. "I'm serving a 30-day notice to quit tomorrow," I said. "Both of you." Noah stood up. "You can't do that." "I can," I said. "And I will." I turned and went upstairs. The next morning, I went to the courthouse civil division window when they opened. I filled out a 30-day notice to quit for Noah and Amber. No court filing yet. The clerk checked my deed, ID, and proof of residence, stamped the forms, and I hired a process server at lunch. That evening, a man in a gray jacket knocked at our door. Amber answered. He handed her an envelope. 30-day notice to quit. You've been served. Her face went red. "You can't do this," she shouted, spinning toward me. "You're throwing us out? We're family." I didn't move. "You called me an outsider, remember? Now it's official." Noah came down the stairs, pale. "Ethan, you'd really evict your own brother?" "You let your wife lock me out of my house," I said evenly. "This isn't about family. It's about respect." Amber's voice sharpened. "You think owning a house makes you a man?" I didn't blink. "No, knowing when to draw the line does." Amber crumpled the envelope in her hand and stormed upstairs. Noah stayed for a moment, staring at the floor. "You didn't have to do this." "I didn't want to," I said. "You made it necessary." He left without another word. Aunt Linda came out quietly, towel in hand. "It had to happen," she said. Uncle Robert nodded. "You gave them every chance." I looked around the room. My house, finally in order. "Yeah," I said. "Now I'm just following through." The rest of the night was silent. No fights, no noise, just peace. For the first time in years, I felt like I actually lived in my own home. The 30-day notice gave them 30 days. If they didn't leave after that, I'd file an unlawful detainer and let the court handle it. The house was silent the first week. No arguments, no slammed doors, just tension thick enough to choke on. Amber barely left the bedroom except to glare at me when she passed through the kitchen. Noah avoided me altogether. I didn't chase conversation. I left early for work, came home late, and kept to myself. It wasn't about being cold. It was about peace. For once, I didn't owe anyone explanations. Uncle Robert and Aunt Linda stayed quiet too. They moved softly through the house, cooked simple meals, and acted like guests even though they'd been there longer than Amber ever had. Every night, Aunt Linda would say the same thing before heading upstairs. "We'll get through this, Ethan. Just stay calm." I always answered the same way. "I already am." By the second week, Amber started up her small acts of defiance again, blasting the TV late at night, leaving her dishes in the sink, accidentally blocking my car in the driveway. I ignored her completely. She wanted a reaction. I wasn't giving her one. Noah tried the guilt route. One evening, he caught me outside after work, standing by the mailbox. "You know she's stressed, right?" he said. "You could have handled this differently." I didn't even look up from the envelopes in my hand. "She changed my locks, Noah," he sighed. "You embarrassed her. Calling the cops, filing eviction papers. That's family you're talking about. Family doesn't break into your house and throw out your food." He shifted uncomfortably. "She's pregnant, man. So she gets to disrespect everyone, and I just take it," I asked. "You're her husband. You should have stopped her before I had to." His voice dropped. "You're really going to kick us out?" "I didn't want to," I said. "You made it happen." He stared at me for a few seconds, then walked back inside without another word. After that, things got quieter. No more guilt trips, no more games. Just the countdown. The last week was awkward. They started packing in silence, moving boxes one by one. I could hear them whispering upstairs at night. their voices sharp and tired. Every now and then, Amber would come down to grab a drink or move something, but she never said a word to me. She didn't need to. The hatred on her face said enough. Aunt Linda tried to make things easier. She cooked extra for everyone and made sure the common spaces stayed clean. Uncle Robert stayed mostly in his workshop out back, avoiding conflict altogether. We were just waiting out the clock. 2 days before the deadline, I came home to find the driveway half empty. Their cars were loaded with boxes. Noah was standing by the porch, sweating, tired, eyes hollow. Amber was already sitting in the passenger seat, arms folded tight, face turned away. I walked past them toward the front door, keys in hand. "You all set?" Noah nodded. "We're leaving tonight." Amber spoke without looking at me. "You'll regret this." I didn't respond. I unlocked the door and went inside. Noah lingered at the doorway. "You know, Mom and Dad would have wanted us to stick together." I stopped, hand on the doorframe. "Mom and Dad would have wanted you to respect the house they helped pay for." He didn't argue. He just looked at the floor, then turned and walked out. The sound of the car engine filled the air, then faded down the street. And just like that, they were gone. Aunt Linda stood behind me, her voice soft. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said. "Better than before." We didn't celebrate. We just cleaned. The next morning, the house was spotless. No clutter, no tension. It felt lighter, like it could finally breathe again. That weekend, Uncle Robert and Aunt Linda sat me down at the kitchen table. Aunt Linda folded her hands. "We want to stay here full time," she said. "We'll pay our share of everything. No arguments." I started to protest, but Uncle Robert cut in. "It's not charity, Ethan. It's fairness. You've carried this house long enough. Let us do our part." I looked at them, two people who had stepped up for me when I had no one else, and nodded. Deal. From that day, they weren't guests anymore. They were home. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into work. My new job was challenging but steady. Long hours, new faces, real structure. I liked it. I came home tired but not drained. For once, my life felt like mine. One evening, I was reorganizing the kitchen drawers when I found an old recipe book buried under a stack of takeout menus. It was my mom's, the same one she used to write notes in. I flipped through it, and a folded paper slipped out. It was a letter. The ink was faded, but her handwriting was clear. "Ethan, if you're reading this, it means life moved faster than I wanted it to. Don't confuse generosity with erasing yourself. Helping people is good. Losing yourself to do it isn't. Love, Mom." I stood there for a while just staring at her words. Not sad, not angry, just settled. I put the letter back between the pages and slid the book onto the shelf. Aunt Linda called from the living room asking if I wanted tea. I told her yes. When I sat down, Uncle Robert was talking about fixing the fence out back, and Aunt Linda was knitting something small. A scarf, maybe. The TV played softly in the background. The house was quiet again. Not tense, not heavy, just peaceful. For the first time in years, it felt like home. Not because of who was in it, but because of who wasn't. 2 months passed. The house was calm again. Steady routines, quiet mornings, no tension. Uncle Robert spent most days in the backyard, fixing things that didn't even need fixing, and Aunt Linda filled the kitchen with the smell of homemade bread. Life finally had rhythm. Work was going well, too. The new job kept me busy, but in a good way. Deadlines, meetings, people who talked about projects instead of gossip. I liked coming home tired, but at peace. The nights were silent, and silence finally felt like a gift. Then, one Wednesday evening, my phone buzzed while I was going through bills at the table. It was Noah. I hadn't heard from him since the day they left. The text was short. "Can we talk?" Just us. I stared at the screen for a moment before typing back. "Where?" He sent the name of a small diner near the highway, one we used to stop at when we were kids. I agreed. When I got there, Noah was already sitting at a corner booth, hands around a half-empty cup of coffee. He looked thinner, worn down. The circles under his eyes said everything before he even opened his mouth. "Hey," he said quietly. I nodded and sat across from him. "You said you wanted to talk." He rubbed his face. "Things have been rough. Rent's killing us. Amber's not working right now. The baby's up all night. It's a lot." I listened. He kept talking, mostly about bills and how expensive everything was. Then he got to the point. "I was thinking," he said carefully, "maybe we could move back in for a while, just until we get on our feet." I didn't answer right away. I just looked at him. He tried to smile. "It'd be temporary. We'd help with bills. Maybe we could all make it work again." "No," I said simply. He blinked. "You didn't even think about it." "I don't need to," I said. "You made your choice." His voice rose. "You're really going to hold that over me forever?" We're family, Ethan. Family doesn't lock you out of your own house, I said. Family doesn't stand there and watch it happen. He shook his head. Amber was wrong, okay? But you didn't have to go nuclear. You called the cops. You filed eviction papers. You made us look like criminals. I didn't make you look like anything, I said calmly. You did that yourself. He leaned forward. You've changed, man. You're cold now. Mom and Dad would be ashamed. That one hit hard, but I didn't flinch. Mom and Dad left me this house to build a life, not to spend it cleaning up someone else's mess. He went quiet, staring down at the table. For a few seconds, the only sound was the hum of the coffee machine behind the counter. Then he said, "What if we made it fair? Split ownership. Put the house under Dad's name or something. Keep it in the family." I let out a small breath. "It's already in the family, Noah. You just don't live there anymore." He looked up, angry now. "So that's it? You're just done with me?" "I'm done being disrespected," I said. "You crossed a line that doesn't get crossed twice." He sat back, shaking his head. "You'll regret this." "I won't," I said. "You'll just have to find your own way, like everyone else." Neither of us spoke for a while after that. Finally, he stood up, tossed a few dollars on the table, and said, "You're not the brother I grew up with." I watched him walk out. "I know," I said under my breath. "That one didn't take advantage of me." When I got home, the house was dark except for the kitchen light. Uncle Robert was fixing the hinge on a cabinet, and Aunt Linda was tending to a small plant by the window. "Everything all right?" Uncle Robert asked without looking up. "Yeah," I said. "Just saw Noah." He gave a slow nod. "He's still trying to drag you into something?" "Yeah, but I'm done trying to save him." "That's good," he said. "You can't fix people who refuse to learn." Aunt Linda turned from the window. "He'll realize it one day. Maybe not soon, but he will." "Maybe," I said, "but it won't change anything." She smiled sadly. "You're stronger than you think, Ethan." I didn't answer. I just sat at the table, sorting through the stack of bills and organizing them into a new binder I'd labeled that morning. House records. Deed, utilities, receipts, insurance, everything in order. Uncle Robert tested the cabinet door. "Perfect," he said. Aunt Linda went back to her plant, humming softly. Outside, the sky was fading into orange and gray. The air through the window smelled like cut grass and rain. It was quiet again, peaceful, not empty, just steady. I closed the binder, placed it neatly on the counter, and looked around the kitchen. Clean, warm, mine. Real family respects the line you draw, I said quietly. And if they don't, I paused, watching the last bit of light fade through the window. You draw it anyway. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way. Story 4. My grandpa asked, "Son, why'd you show up in an Uber? Where's that Mercedes C63? We bought you." Before I could answer, Mom smiled and said, "Oh, that belongs to his sister now." What Grandpa did next made me respect him forever. Hey Reddit, grab whatever you're drinking because this one's a ride. My family treated me like a walking ATM for years, and it took showing up to my grandpa's house in an Uber instead of the Mercedes he bought me to finally make everything explode. Spoiler alert, Grandpa came through like an absolute legend. I'm Colin, 26 years old, and I guess you could call me the family fixer, the invisible son, the guy everyone calls when they need something, but forgets exists when it's time to celebrate anything. I run a small custom ornament business out of a rented garage space in Phoenix. Hand-painted Christmas decorations, wedding ornaments, memorial pieces, tiny replicas of people's houses with the right number of windows and the correct shingle color. It's detailed work. My hands permanently smell like paint thinner and lacquer. I've got a magnifying lamp, about 40 different sized brushes, and calluses on my fingertips from handling glass bulbs all day. People think ornament painting is some cute hobby, but it's legitimate craftsmanship. I spend hours getting the details right on a 2-inch ceramic house, making sure the wreaths are proportional and the snow looks like actual snow instead of lumpy white paint. The business started when I was 19, working a seasonal job packing craft kits at a warehouse for $9 an hour. 40 hours a week of bubble wrap and tape guns and cardboard dust in my lungs. First real paycheck, I bought a used airbrush with a temperamental trigger from some guy on Craigslist who met me in a grocery store parking lot at dusk. Paid him $200 cash for equipment that would have cost $800 new. Also grabbed a box of misprinted glass bulbs cheap from a party store going out of business. The kind where everything's marked 70% off and the owner looks like he's watching his dreams dissolve in real time. Taught myself everything from videos and forums. Spent months practicing on cheap practice bulbs, learning how to control the airbrush trigger pressure, how to thin paint to the right consistency, how to keep my hand steady enough that the lines didn't wobble. Ruined probably 300 ornaments before I made one worth selling. That first Christmas, I set up a folding table outside a grocery store with a handwritten sign and froze my face off painting custom ornaments. This was Phoenix in December, which meant it was only 60 degrees. But when you're sitting still for 8 hours, the cold gets into your bones. Teachers buying class gifts. Couples wanting tiny versions of their first house. Parents ordering their kids' names in fancy script with little snowflakes around the letters. I charged $15 per ornament and felt guilty about it, like I was overcharging for something that took me an hour to paint. I remember every single customer from that first season because they were the ones who saw potential in some kid with paint-stained fingers doing careful work in the cold. Mrs. Patterson, a third-grade teacher who ordered 24 snowman ornaments for her class. The Johnsons, who wanted a replica of the house they'd just bought. A guy named Frank who ordered one with his late wife's name and the year she passed, and cried when he picked it up because I'd gotten the details right. By 21, I had regular clients. I was pulling in decent money during the holidays and doing custom orders year-round. Weddings, graduations, memorials, baby announcements. If you could paint it on a 3-inch ornament, I could make it happen. That's when Grandpa Howard decided I needed reliable transportation. Grandpa's old-school practical. 78 years old, retired electrician, who spent 50 years pulling wire through walls and fixing breaker boxes, built his entire life on the principle that you take care of your tools and your tools take care of you. He showed up at my garage one afternoon in March, driving his old Ford truck with the toolbox still mounted in the bed, and said we were going car shopping. I thought he meant helping me find something affordable in the $10,000 to $15,000 range. Maybe co-signing a loan so I could get decent interest rates. Nope. We drove to a Mercedes dealership on the north side, and he walked straight past the showroom with all the brand new models gleaming under the lights. Went directly to the used section where the previous lease returns lived. Found this 5-year-old C63 with 47,000 miles. Silver exterior with black leather interior. Sitting between a boring sedan and an SUV with wood paneling. The sales guy saw an old man in work boots and a kid in paint-stained jeans and probably thought we were lost. The guy started his pitch about luxury features and performance specs, talking about the AMG engine and the 0 to 60 time like we were there to race it. But Grandpa cut him off with this hand gesture that meant stop talking. Does it run reliably? He asked. Yes, sir. Fully inspected. Clean. Does it have room for equipment in the trunk? The sales guy looked confused. It's got decent trunk space for a sedan, yes. Maintenance history clean? No accidents? No funny business with the title? Clean Carfax, one previous owner. All service done at the dealership. 3 yeses later, Grandpa asked to see the maintenance records. Spent 20 minutes reading through them like they were a mystery novel, checking service dates and making sure the previous owner hadn't skipped oil changes or ignored warning lights. Then he test drove it himself, took it on the highway, listened to the engine, checked the brakes in an empty parking lot. When we got back to the dealership, he didn't negotiate, just asked the price, pulled out his checkbook from the credit union, and wrote a check for the whole thing. $28,000. Cash deal, no financing, no games. The sales guy looked like he'd won the lottery, and also couldn't quite believe what just happened. Grandpa handed me the keys right there in the parking lot, with this matter-of-fact pride that meant more than any graduation speech could have. A craftsman needs reliable wheels, he said. This isn't for show. This is for work. You take care of it, it'll take care of you. Mom showed up for the photo op. Big smile, arm around my shoulder, posted it on social media talking about how proud she was. That smile should have been my warning sign. Mom doesn't celebrate things she can't somehow leverage into benefiting the family. By family, I mean my sister. My sister Kelsey is 22, charismatic, photogenic, in that way that makes phones love her face, and what Mom calls front-of-house material. Translation: she's good at talking to people and looking put together for cameras. Kelsey's whole life is her social media presence. She's got about 85,000 followers across platforms, which sounds impressive until you realize that's about 60,000 on TikTok, 20,000 on Instagram, and 5,000 random followers on Twitter who probably forgot they followed her. She posts lifestyle content 5 to 7 times a day. Morning routines that start at 9 a.m. because she doesn't actually wake up early. What I eat in a day videos featuring acai bowls she makes once for content, then orders Chipotle. Closet organization content for a wardrobe funded entirely by credit cards. apartment tours of our parents' house where she lives rent-free but pretends it's her own place. She does brand partnerships for yoga pants and meal prep containers and sustainable water bottles. The yoga pants company sent her 2 free pairs in exchange for 3 posts. The meal prep containers were a $60 Amazon purchase she wrote off as a business expense on mom's credit card. The sustainable water bottles were part of an ambassador program that paid her $50 and a discount code that 3 people used. In high school, she got a free pair of leggings for doing a brand shout-out, and you would have thought she'd discovered cold fusion or solved world hunger. She posted about it for 3 weeks straight. The beginning of her empire. Mom started treating her like a business investment after that. Every family resource got redirected toward building Kelsey's platform because that's where the real money was supposedly hiding just around the corner. Right after the next viral video, any day now. The problem with Kelsey's content is it requires constant funding. New clothes for outfit videos, ring lights and tripods and editing software subscriptions, coffee shop backgrounds for aesthetic value at $5 per latte she doesn't drink, gas money to drive to photogenic locations. It all adds up fast, and none of it generates actual revenue unless you have millions of followers and major brand deals, which she doesn't. The creep started small and polite. Kelsey needed a ride to a collaboration meeting across town. Could she borrow the Mercedes just for the afternoon? She needed to look professional for a brand pitch. Could she take it for the weekend? Mom needed the business debit card to run some ads that would help everyone. Could I share my login so she could support my marketing? I said yes because saying no in my family feels like slamming a door during a funeral. Everyone hears it. Everyone gets offended. Everyone makes it about you being difficult instead of them being unreasonable. Then came the loans. Mom called one afternoon while I was sealing a batch of snowflake ornaments with glossy topcoat, hands covered in the stuff, phone wedged between my shoulder and ear. That sugar voice she uses when she wants something, the one that's higher pitched and softer than her normal tone. Honey, your father's hours got cut this month. Could you front the mortgage payment just until the tax return comes in? $1,800 plus $40 wire transfer fee. I did it without questioning because that's what family does, right? Help each other out during rough patches. Sent the money that same afternoon from my business account. Watched my carefully saved buffer money disappear in one transaction. The tax return that was supposedly coming never materialized. Turned out Dad's hours hadn't been cut. They'd been the same all year. The mortgage payment was short because they'd used that money to pay for Kelsey's new camera equipment. But the next month there was another emergency. Utilities this time. $300 or the power gets shut off. Then it was car insurance. Then it was a medical bill. Always just this once, always just until they stabilize. Always with the promise that we'd square up when Kelsey's next big brand deal came through and she could contribute to family expenses. The brand deal never hit, but they kept reminding me we were a team. We were building something together. I was the entrepreneur with tax write-offs so I could make it work on paper. Meanwhile, specific charges started appearing on my business card that I absolutely did not authorize. She posted mirror selfies with my baby, making it look like the car came from her success instead of Grandpa's generosity. When I needed it for a craft market across town, she said she already had shoots scheduled. You work in a garage, she said. Not mean, just matter of fact, like announcing it might rain. I have client meetings. Just take an Uber. It's a business expense. So I started taking Ubers to market load-ins, holding boxes in the trunks of drivers who looked at me like I was building a nest in their back seat. I told myself not to be petty. I poured the resentment into holly leaves and clean paint lines. I promised myself Christmas would fix everything. Sales would spike, the numbers would speak for themselves, and I could finally afford to set some boundaries without feeling guilty. Except the charges kept hitting my card. Promoted post packages, influencer boost services, analytics tools. My business card was linked to a family marketing account Kelsey had set up. When I confronted her, she blinked at me like I was speaking another language. We're growing the brand together, she said, showing me a spreadsheet with projected returns that somehow never actually returned. Your ornament content performs better when it's part of my overall aesthetic. We're building family equity. Family equity. That was Mom's phrase. Translation. What's yours is ours, but what's ours stays ours. The week everything snapped started normal enough. I was prepping for a holiday market, loading sample boxes, when I realized I was completely out of transportation options. The Mercedes had been at Kelsey's for 3 weeks straight. Every time I asked about it, I got vague responses about important meetings and brand obligations. I called an Uber to get to Grandpa's house for Saturday dinner. Showed up with my arms full of sample boxes and glitter still in my hair from a batch of ornaments that shed like nervous cats. Grandpa opened the door in his reading glasses and cardigan. took one look at me standing there on his porch, and his face did this thing. Son, why'd you show up in an Uber? Where's that Mercedes C63 we bought you for your birthday? I froze. The front door was half open, and through it I could see Mom in the dining room. She'd heard the question. I saw her straighten up, that practiced smile already forming. Before I could formulate an answer that wouldn't start World War III, she stepped into view. Oh, that belongs to his sister now, Mom said, bright and casual, like announcing the weather. You know how hard Kelsey works. Colin barely drives. He just paints little ornaments all day. She made this soft, dismissive sound, like my entire business was adorable and inconsequential. My uncle stopped chewing whatever he'd been eating. The old clock in the hallway got very loud. Grandpa went completely still. He looked at Mom, then at me, then back at Mom. Like he was reading labels on products he didn't remember buying and didn't understand why they were in his cart. Belongs to who? He asked. His voice was level, but something underneath it made my spine straighten. Kelsey, Mom repeated, like maybe he hadn't heard. Colin hardly uses it, and you know she has meetings constantly. It just makes sense logistically. Mom, I said, but my voice did this thin, embarrassing thing where it came out smaller than I meant. Kelsey poked her head around the corner, phone in hand, that ring light reflection in her eyes. It's just practical, she said. I can't show up to brand partnerships in an old Honda. Image matters in my industry. Grandpa rubbed his jaw once, the way he does when he's calculating something. He put his hand on my shoulder, gentle but firm. Come on in, son. He led me to the dining room table and gestured for me to sit. He didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. He just folded his napkin with that same careful precision he uses for everything, and in that same polite tone he uses with contractors who try to overcharge him. He started asking questions. When did the car start belonging to your sister? Dad, Mom said, warning in her voice. Let the boy speak, Grandpa said. Then he looked at me. Colin? The truth crouched in my chest like something with claws. I could feel it scratching to get out. I don't know, I said. It just happened. And that was the worst part. It had just happened. The same way everything else had just happened. The loans that never got repaid. The business charges on my card. The constant expectation that I'd say yes because that's what good family members do. People romanticize family business. They picture warm kitchens and everyone pitching in together, laughing while they work toward a common goal. In my family, business is the word you use when you need someone to swipe their card without asking questions. I started the ornament thing at 19 because I liked making things. By 21, I had regular customers who came back every year. Teachers ordering classroom sets, couples wanting replicas of their first apartment, parents getting memorial ornaments for relatives who'd passed, real people paying real money for careful work. The Mercedes was supposed to make the logistics easier, hauling market equipment, delivering custom orders, picking up supplies from the art store across town. Grandpa understood that. He'd spent 50 years as an electrician, schlepping tools to job sites, understanding that reliable transportation wasn't luxury, it was infrastructure. Mom had smiled for the photo that day at the dealership, not because she was happy I had reliable transportation, but because she was already calculating how to leverage it for Kelsey's benefit. We keep things balanced, Mom always said. Family equity. Balanced in our house meant if Colin has a tool, it becomes community property. If Kelsey has a platform, it becomes family identity. Everything I earned somehow became raw material for Kelsey's content creation and Mom's project management. The creep accelerated after I got the car. Kelsey needed it for a brand event. Just the weekend. Except the weekend turned into a week. The week turned into indefinite. When I asked to use my own car for a market setup, Kelsey acted like I was being unreasonable. I already have 3 shoots scheduled this week, she said, not looking up from her phone. You can Uber. It's like $30. $30 times 3 markets a month times 12 months is over $1,000 in transportation. I was suddenly covering because my sister needed my car to take selfies in parking lots. When I tried to bring it up with Mom, she sighed like I was exhausting her. Why are you being difficult about this? We're building something together. Kelsey's platform helps your business too. Cross-promotion, synergy. That's a word people use when they want you to give them things without calling it what it is. The charges started showing up a few months later. Small at first. $49 for a social media scheduling tool, $87 for a photography backdrop, then bigger, $200 for a promoted post package, $350 for an influencer analytics service. They all hit my business card, which was linked to a marketing account Kelsey had set up. When I confronted her, she showed me a spreadsheet that looked professional and meant nothing. Projected reach, estimated conversions, anticipated brand deals. All numbers that existed in the future, justifying money I was spending in the present. We're investing in growth, she said. Your ornament content performs 80% better when it's integrated into my lifestyle feed. The algorithm loves cohesive branding. I wanted to ask whose ornament content it was if I was the one making them and paying for the promotion. I wanted to point out that my business existed before her platform and would exist after. But I didn't say any of that because saying it felt mean, and I'd learned that being mean was worse than being exploited. So I kept taking Ubers to markets, kept watching charges hit my card, kept telling myself that family meant sacrifice, and I was just being selfish for wanting boundaries. Grandpa's first question opened the dam. When did the car start belonging to your sister? Then came the next one. Has the car been registered in her name? Insurance transferred? Dad, these are just details, Mom tried. Details matter, Grandpa said. He was still using that contractor voice, calm, factual, relentless. The car was a gift to Colin for his work. If it's being used by someone else, I want to understand the arrangement. There was no arrangement. That became clear fast. Kelsey had just started using it. Mom had just started referring to it as Kelsey's car. Dad had just started going along with it because that's what he does. Goes along. How much are you paying your brother for the use of his car? Grandpa asked Kelsey directly. She blinked. I'm not paying him. It's family. So you're using his work vehicle, not compensating him. And he's covering transportation costs with his own money so you can have his car. Is that accurate? When he laid it out like that, with no emotional padding, it sounded exactly like what it was. Theft with better PR. Grandpa, it's not that simple, Kelsey started. It's extremely simple, he replied. You're using something that doesn't belong to you without permission or compensation. That's the definition. Mom tried to redirect. We're all contributing to Kelsey's platform. It benefits everyone. How has it benefited Colin? Grandpa asked. Silence. The kind that gets heavy. He gets cross-promotion, Mom said weakly. Show me the numbers, Grandpa said. Show me how Colin's business has grown from this cross-promotion you keep mentioning. More silence. Because there were no numbers. My business had grown despite the arrangement, not because of it. My customer base came from craft markets and word of mouth and people finding my work through local searches, not from Kelsey's followers who were interested in smoothie recipes and closet organization. Grandpa turned to me. How much have you loaned your parents? I did the math in my head. $1,800 for mortgage. Adjust this for utilities. $500 here, $300 there. Maybe $6,000? Over the past year and a half. Repayment plan? They said when things stabilize. Grandpa nodded slowly. And the charges on your business card. The marketing expenses for Kelsey's platform. How much total? I'd been tracking it. Not obsessively, just aware. Around $4,000. Did you authorize these charges? Not specifically, but Kelsey had access to the account for, family marketing. Family marketing for a business that isn't hers. Grandpa leaned back. So to summarize, you loaned your parents $6,000 with no repayment timeline. Your sister has spent $4,000 of your money on her projects without explicit permission. She's using your car full-time without compensation. You're covering transportation costs to do your actual work. And everyone's telling you this is normal family behavior. When you list it out like that, it sounds completely insane. But it had happened so gradually, one small concession at a time, that I'd convinced myself it was just how families worked. Dad, you're making this sound worse than it is, Mom said. I'm making it sound exactly like it is, Grandpa replied. Colin's been subsidizing everyone's lifestyle while being told he's not contributing enough. He makes ornaments, Mom said, and there was edge in her voice now. Kelsey's building a real business, a brand, something with scale. Colin runs a profitable craft business with actual paying customers, Grandpa corrected. Kelsey runs a social media account that requires constant cash infusion from other people. One of these is a business. The other is an expensive hobby. Kelsey's face went red. My followers are an asset. Brands pay for access to my audience. How much have they paid? She hesitated. I've done several partnership deals. Dollar amount. This year, net after expenses. I don't have the exact numbers right now. Rough estimate. Kelsey looked at Mom. Mom looked at Dad. Nobody said a number, which meant the number was either zero or embarrassingly small compared to the money they'd been spending to build this asset. Colin, Grandpa said, what did your business net last year? I didn't want to say it. Felt like bragging or setting myself up for more extraction. But Grandpa was looking at me with this expression that said, the truth mattered here. $42,000, after expenses and before taxes. The room got quiet again. Kelsey made this small sound. Mom's jaw tightened. 42,000 was more than my dad made at his job. It was definitely more than Kelsey's platform had ever generated in actual income. And yet you're funding marketing for her account while taking Ubers to your own work events? Grandpa observed. While she drives the car I bought for your business. It's more complicated than that, Dad said. First time he'd spoken. He was doing that thing where he stares at his plate like the grout patterns hold answers. Actually, it's not, Grandpa said. It's very simple. Colin's been exploited by people who should be supporting him. And you've all gotten comfortable with it because he kept saying yes. I sat there feeling like my skin was too tight. Everything he was saying was true, but hearing it out loud made me want to crawl under the table. What do you want us to do? Mom asked. Kelsey needs the car. Colin can Uber. It works. It works for everyone except Colin, Grandpa said. Here's what's going to happen. The car goes back to Colin today. He drives it home tonight. If Kelsey needs a vehicle, she can buy one or rent one or figure out transportation like every other working person. That's not fair, Kelsey said. I have meetings scheduled, brand calls. I can't show up in an old Honda. Then buy a car that matches your image, Grandpa said, with money from your brand deals. Dad, be reasonable, Mom tried. Kelsey can't afford that right now. Why is that Colin's problem? Grandpa asked. Simple question. No good answer. We're family, Mom said. The ultimate trump card. Family should be the last place you encounter theft, Grandpa replied. Colin's been family this whole time, and nobody's treated his needs as legitimate. That stops today. He pulled out a folder I hadn't noticed him carrying. Inside were bank statements, printouts, documents I didn't recognize. He'd been preparing for this conversation, had evidence ready. This wasn't spontaneous Grandpa being protective. This was a planned intervention. I've reassigned a small trust I set aside years ago, Grandpa said. Originally meant for family emergencies. After watching how emergencies have been defined in this house, I've decided Colin needs protection from his own family. Mom's face went white. Dad, what are you doing? I'm making sure Colin has the resources to set boundaries. The trust is enough for him to lease a proper workshop space and separate his finances completely from family access. It's not a fortune. It's a foundation. You're rewarding his selfishness, Mom said, her voice going sharp. I'm rewarding his work, Grandpa corrected, and protecting him from people who've been treating him like an ATM. I sat there trying to process what was happening. A trust. Money specifically designated to help me separate from the family financial ecosystem that had been bleeding me dry. How much? Dad asked quietly. Enough, Grandpa said. The details are between Colin and me. What matters is he'll be able to support himself without being guilted into supporting everyone else first. This is going to destroy this family, Mom said. She wasn't yelling. Her voice was shaking. This family's been destroying Colin for years, Grandpa replied. You've just been benefiting from it. So you called it love. The silence after that was different. Heavier. Like the air before a storm, except the storm had already passed, and we were standing in the aftermath. Grandpa slid the car keys across the table to me. These stay with you. You want to lend the car to someone? That's your choice. But it's a choice, not an assumption. I picked up the keys. They felt heavier than they should have. And the money? Grandpa asked. The $6,000 in loans and $4,000 in charges? That's between us, Mom said quickly. We'll work it out as a family. No, I said. First time I'd really spoken since Grandpa started asking questions. I want a repayment plan in writing. $100 a month until the $6,000 is covered. I'm not fronting anything else. And Kelsey pays back the $4,000 in marketing charges. Same terms. Colin, be reasonable, Mom started. Those are extremely reasonable terms, Grandpa said. Banks would charge interest. He's not. Fine, Kelsey said suddenly. Whatever. I'll pay it back. She was staring at her phone, thumb moving fast, probably already texting someone about this family disaster, turning it into content about toxic relatives. In writing, I repeated. Signed. I want documentation. You don't trust your own family? Dad asked. He sounded hurt. No, I said. Simple. True. I don't. Not with money. That hurt him. I could see it on his face. But it needed to be said. Trust isn't something you demand. It's something you earn. And they'd been making withdrawals for years, without deposits. Anything else? Grandpa asked me. Yeah, I said. My business is mine. No more access to accounts. No more loans without clear terms. No more assuming I'll say yes because we're family. If someone needs help, I'll decide if I can give it. And the answer might be no. You're being cruel, Mom said. She looked like she might cry. I'm being clear, I corrected. There's a difference. The dinner broke up after that. Nobody ate. Kelsey left first, Dramatic exit with her phone in hand. Mom and Dad stayed, trying different angles. The guilt trip about raising me. The practical argument about family supporting family. The emotional appeal about Mom's anxiety. I kept saying no. It got easier each time. Grandpa walked me out to the Mercedes. My Mercedes. Handed me the folder with the trust documents and account information. This isn't going to be easy, he said. They're going to push back hard. They'll try guilt. They'll try emergencies. They'll tell other family members you're being unreasonable. I know. You stay firm anyway. You understand me? Your worth isn't measured by how much you're willing to give away. Yes, sir. And if you need help holding the line, you call me. Anytime. I drove home in the Mercedes for the first time in 3 months. It felt strange and unfamiliar, like I was relearning how to operate something that should have been second nature. The seat was adjusted wrong for my height. The mirrors were all positioned for Kelsey. There were hairpins in the cup holder, and her phone charger still plugged into the dashboard. Empty coffee cups in the back seat. Receipts from places I'd never been. Evidence of 3 months of someone else living in my car like it was theirs. I spent that evening in my garage methodically reclaiming my space. Changed every password on every account Kelsey had access to. Business banking, email, cloud storage, social media, even my phone unlock code. Removed her from my business credit card entirely, called the company, and had them issue me a new card with a different number just to be absolutely certain no old saved payment information could slip through. Set up a completely separate checking account at a different bank across town, one my family didn't even know existed. Transferred my business income there, changed all my automatic payments and direct deposits. Created a financial firewall between my life and their constant requests. Mom called twice that night. I watched the phone buzz on my workbench and didn't pick up. She left voicemails. The first one was angry, voice tight and sharp, about me embarrassing the family at Grandpa's house and making them look bad in front of extended family who'd be hearing about this drama soon enough. The second voicemail was sad, that wounded tone she uses when anger doesn't work, about me choosing money over relationships and not understanding what family really means. Both were pure manipulation. Different tactics, same goal. Make me feel guilty enough to cave. I deleted them without responding. Felt good to just press that delete button and watch them disappear. Kelsey texted, "Hope you're happy destroying everything." I replied, "I'm happy protecting myself." She didn't respond after that. The next week, I signed a lease on a corner unit with big windows that actually opened and real workshop space. 200 square feet, properly ventilated with actual HVAC instead of a box fan, room for multiple workbenches and proper storage shelving. The trust covered first and last month plus security deposit without me having to drain my business account. I was out of the cramped garage where I'd been working, hunched over for years, and into a real legitimate shop that had a proper address and everything. The space had good bones. Concrete floors I could actually spill paint on without worrying. Electrical outlets every 6 feet. A small office area separated from the work zone. Big storefront windows where I could display finished pieces to catch the attention of people walking by. A proper bathroom instead of having to walk down the block to the gas station. It felt professional in a way my garage setup never could. I spent 3 days moving equipment and setting everything up right. Organized my paint supplies by color family. Built proper drying racks that could hold 100 ornaments at once. Installed bright task lighting over each workbench. Set up a small customer consultation area with a table and chairs where people could sit and discuss custom orders instead of standing awkwardly in a cramped garage while I tried to show them samples. I hired a high school kid named Riley to help with afternoon orders. Riley was better at organization than I'd ever be. Labeled things with this precise handwriting that made everything look professional, and told me when my display arrangement looked dead and boring, which apparently was bad for retail business. We laughed a lot while we worked. It was the first time in years I'd actually enjoyed having someone in my workspace, instead of feeling like I had to guard my supplies and watch my accounts. Mom kept trying different strategies. Could I loan Kelsey some blank ornaments so she could start her own line? No. Could she borrow the Mercedes just for a day so Dad could check something mechanical? No, and the car stays locked in my shop parking lot with a steering wheel lock just in case. "You're being dramatic," Mom said. "Okay," I replied. And that was the whole conversation. A local paper did a tiny feature on holiday makers. They photographed my hands because my nails are permanently stained silver, and the reporter thought it was atmospheric. The caption read, "Small shop, steady hands." Grandpa clipped the article and stuck it on his fridge with a magnet shaped like a cactus. He pointed to it every time I visited, like it might change size if he believed hard enough. Christmas Eve. I closed the shop early and took a box of seconds to the senior center. Ornaments with paint smudges and crooked details, asymmetrical snowflakes, and names where my hand had shaken slightly. Ones I'd never sell, but were still beautiful and meaningful to someone who wasn't judging them against perfection. The activities director, a woman named Patricia, who'd been running that place for 20 years, actually teared up when I brought them in. Said these were perfect to them, that the residents would love hanging them on the community tree and taking a few back to their rooms. On the drive home, I passed my parents' house, the one I'd grown up in with the same porch light and the same mailbox. Through the living room window, I could see Kelsey filming by the Christmas tree, smile wide and perfect, performing joy for an audience of strangers who double tap and scroll on to the next thing. She was probably doing a "what I got for Christmas" video, even though Christmas was still hours away. For a second, I felt this ache for a version of us that never existed, the family we could have been if anyone had valued honesty over performance. Then I kept driving, hands steady on the wheel of my Mercedes. I had hot chocolate to make, and a shop to open in the morning, and a life that was finally, actually mine. January was quiet. Quiet is how you hear yourself think. I used the trust money to install a proper spray booth and upgrade my equipment. Business picked up from the holiday exposure. Corporate orders for client gifts. A wedding planner who wanted 200 custom ornaments for a spring event. I was making real money. Enough to not just survive, but actually build something sustainable. And I was sleeping better than I had in years. Dad came into the shop twice that month, bought ornaments with cash, stood at the counter like a man on uncertain ground. "Your grandpa says you did right," he said during the second visit. "He says you did what you had to do." If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks. Story 5. They fired me after 15 years and replaced me with the boss's nephew. While I packed my desk, one phone call changed everything. Now I'm watching them collapse. 15 years of my life disappeared in a 12-minute meeting. No appreciation, no hesitation, just corporate speak and a younger guy with the right last name sitting across from me like he'd earned it. They dressed it up as modernization, but I recognized exactly what it was. Nepotism in an expensive suit. I didn't yell, didn't beg. I walked out clean because I already understood something they hadn't figured out yet. How much of their infrastructure had my name stamped all over it? And pretty soon they'd learn what happens when you run a company without the guy who built the foundation. If you've ever been pushed aside for someone less qualified, drop a comment below. I want to hear your story. The meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. Conference Room B, the one with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Portland. Fancy setup, leather chairs, giant monitor on the wall. I showed up 5 minutes early like I'd done for every meeting in 15 years. Professional to the end, even when I knew what was coming. They didn't even make eye contact when I walked in. 4 people total. Brandon Fletcher, the CEO. Kelly Novak, VP of Operations. Some guy from HR I'd never seen before. And the new hire who somehow already had executive-level access. The room had that weird tension that happens right before someone gets destroyed professionally. That thick silence where everyone knows what's about to happen, except the person it's happening to. Except I knew. Had known for weeks, actually. You don't work somewhere for 15 years without developing instincts. The whispered conversations that stopped when I walked past. The meetings I suddenly wasn't invited to anymore. The consultants brought in to evaluate processes I'd built from scratch. The printed folders sitting on the conference table confirmed it. They never printed anything unless the decision was already locked in, signed off by legal, approved by the board. Corporate cowardice at its finest. Everything digital until the moment they need documentation of your removal. Then suddenly paper matters. I sat down across from Brandon, guy I'd worked under for 9 years. We'd celebrated product launches together, stayed late fixing system crashes that threatened major contracts. I'd been at his father's funeral 3 years ago, gave a speech about how proud his dad would have been of the company Brandon had built. Now he couldn't look at me. "Patrick, this isn't easy for us," Brandon started. Same sympathetic tone he used in damage control press conferences and quarterly earnings calls when numbers looked bad. I'd heard him use it on other people. Never imagined I'd be on the receiving end. "Your contributions to Titan Security Group have been significant," he continued, then paused like he expected gratitude or acknowledgement. I gave him nothing. Just stared at the kid sitting 2 seats down. Not a kid anymore, technically. Austin Fletcher. Brandon's nephew, 26 years old. Fresh MBA from some coastal business school where networking mattered more than competence. 0 field experience. No understanding of the systems I'd designed from scratch over a decade and a half. No comprehension of the infrastructure holding this entire company together. But there he sat. Crisp suit, expensive watch, acting like he belonged in a room where actual decisions got made. Kelly jumped in with the corporate script. She was always good at delivering bad news with a smile. We're restructuring the security division to align with modern business practices. The industry is evolving rapidly, and we need agility at the leadership level. Fresh perspectives that can drive innovation. Translation. They wanted someone younger who wouldn't push back when they made stupid decisions. Austin had a brand new notebook in front of him. Probably bought it yesterday. He was taking notes like this was a business school case study. Like watching someone get fired was a learning opportunity. Writing down observations about how to terminate employees. The arrogance was almost impressive. I didn't ask why. Already knew. The past 4 months had made it obvious. Meetings I wasn't invited to anymore where they discussed restructuring. Outside consultants questioning processes I'd built. Processes that actually worked. Random audits of departments I managed, looking for flaws they could point to as justification. I'd stayed late fixing their mistakes. Trained 8 team leads over the years. Maintained the entire security architecture, protecting 3 product lines and $17 million in annual contracts. None of that registered when the people at the top needed to prove they could modernize. They wrapped it in business language, streamlining operations, agile methodology, next-generation thinking, leveraging emerging talent. All of it translated to the same thing. Replace the steady hand with something shiny. The HR guy, Gerald something, slid the severance package across the table. Standard manila folder. 6 months salary. Extended health benefits through the end of the year. Non-compete clause that I could have fought but wouldn't bother. Confidentiality agreement about company operations, client lists, proprietary systems. We appreciate everything you've done for Titan Security Group, Gerald said, reading from a script he'd probably used 20 times before on other people the company decided were disposable. This decision reflects our strategic direction going forward, not your individual performance. Right, sure. That's why Austin was sitting there trying not to smile. That's why Brandon still couldn't make eye contact. Strategic direction always looks like the boss's nephew getting handed a director position he didn't earn. I stood up, took the folder. Understood. Patrick, we hope this can be an amicable transition, Kelly said. You've been a valued member of our team and we want to honor that. Valued enough to fire, apparently. I walked to the door. Austin stood up, extended his hand. Looking forward to learning from the systems you built. Big shoes to fill. I stared at his hand. Didn't take it. Just walked past him like he was furniture. Let him stand there looking stupid with his arm extended. Small victory, but I'd take it. The elevator ride down felt long. Not because I was embarrassed. I wasn't. I was eerily calm. That bothered me slightly. Maybe some part of me had been ready for this. Seeing the shift over the past year and how they treated my input during strategy meetings, how they'd started talking over me in client presentation, how Brandon would smile and nod when I raised concerns about security vulnerability, then ignore everything I said and do whatever looked better on a PowerPoint slide. 3 months ago, I'd warned them about critical gaps in the authentication protocol for the new client portal Austin had championed. He'd been in that meeting, fresh off his first week, acting like his MBA gave him system architecture expertise. He'd suggested we streamline the login process to improve user experience, remove some security layers, because clients complained about too many verification steps. I'd explained, calmly and professionally, exactly why those layers existed, how they prevented unauthorized access, how removing them would create vulnerabilities that hackers could exploit in about 15 minutes, how we'd lose client trust and probably face lawsuits when the inevitable breach happened. Brandon had thanked me for my input, then asked Austin to prepare a proposal for the streamlined version anyway. That's when I knew for certain. They didn't want expertise anymore. They wanted compliance. Someone who'd smile and nod and implement whatever made the PowerPoints look good for investors. And I'd never been good at following stupid orders just because someone with a fancy title gave them. My office was already packed when I got there. Small space on the 3rd floor, maybe 10 by 12 feet. One window facing the parking lot. Someone had done it for me. Professional courtesy, they probably called it. Corporate efficiency, more likely. Everything I owned at Titan fitting neatly into a cardboard box with the company logo on the side. They even left a sticky note. Personal items. Gloria. Like I was a case file being processed instead of someone who'd given this place 15 years of 60-hour weeks. Inside the box was my entire career at Titan. Coffee mug from the 10-year anniversary event. Framed photo of me and the original security team from 2009, back when we were 12 people crammed into a warehouse office with exposed pipes and questionable wiring. Certificate from the International Association for Data Protection for Excellence in Security Architecture. Desktop nameplate that said, Patrick Hayes, Director of Security Infrastructure. Some pens. A stress ball shaped like a server rack that one of the junior engineers had given me as a joke after I'd stayed up 72 hours straight fixing a catastrophic system failure. That was it. 15 years reduced to objects that fit in a box you could carry with both hands. But they missed something. A folder locked in my bottom drawer. Documentation I'd accumulated over the years. Internal audits they'd commissioned, then buried. Security gap assessments I'd written that never got addressed because fixing problems costs money. Risk reports outlining exactly what would happen if they kept cutting corners. Incident logs from near-miss breaches I'd caught and fixed at 2 in the morning before they became disasters. I'd started keeping these records about 6 years in, not for any particular reason at first. Just professional habit. Documentation instinct. Cover your work, track your recommendations, maintain evidence that you did your job right. But over time, they became proof that I'd been trying to prevent the exact problems they kept creating. The 2016 internal audit showing critical vulnerabilities in the client data portal. I'd recommended immediate fixes. Management said it would impact user experience. They wanted smooth and fast, didn't care about secure. 2 months later, we had a sophisticated breach attempt targeting exactly those vulnerabilities. I caught it at 3 in the morning because I'd built redundant monitoring systems they didn't know about. Fixed it before any data got compromised. Got a thank you email from Brandon. No mention of the recommendations they'd ignored. The 2018 infrastructure risk assessment outlining in painful detail what would happen if they kept using outdated server architecture. I'd shown them the math. Upgrading would cost $400,000. Waiting for a failure would cost millions in lost contracts and reputation damage. They said the upgrade was too expensive. Delayed another year. When the catastrophic failure happened exactly like I'd predicted, I fixed it over a 72-hour weekend, sleeping 4 hours total. Got a $200 gift card to a steakhouse as a thank you. The 2020 staffing memo about hiring more qualified security analysts, instead of cutting the division budget by 18%, they cut it anyway. I absorbed the workload, trained junior people fresh out of college to handle what should have been senior-level positions, made it work because that's what I always did, made their bad decisions work anyway, all of it documented, all of it ignored, all of it still sitting in that locked folder. I grabbed it, slid it into my bag. If they noticed it was missing, they'd never admit it. Too many questions about why I had that documentation in the first place. Why I'd felt the need to protect myself from my own employer. Why I didn't trust them to make the right calls. Before leaving, I looked around the office one more time. I'd spent more waking hours here than in my own apartment some years. Late nights fixing critical issues while everyone else was home sleeping. Early mornings before anyone else arrived because that's when systems were quiet and you could actually think without interruptions. Weekends running tests and building protocols that kept this company profitable. The walls were blank now. They'd already removed everything I'd hung up. Pictures of the security team at various company events. Whiteboard filled with protocol diagrams and system architecture notes. Map showing our client locations across the Pacific Northwest. All gone. Erased like I'd never been there. I picked up the box, walked to the elevator, rode down in silence. The security guard at the front desk looked uncomfortable when I handed over my access badge. Vincent. Good guy. Worked here almost as long as I had. We'd talked about his daughter's soccer team, his wife's new job teaching middle school, his plans to retire in 5 years and move somewhere warm. Sorry, man, he muttered, scanning the badge to deactivate it in the system. This whole thing is garbage. Not your call, I said. You're just doing your job. Still garbage. You built this place. I appreciated that. Small moment of recognition that this whole situation was wrong. That firing the person who held everything together was corporate stupidity at its finest. Outside, Portland was doing that thing where it can't decide between rain and sunshine. Gray clouds, occasional drizzle, light breaking through in random spots. Felt appropriate somehow. I sat in my car for maybe 5 minutes. Didn't cry, didn't punch the steering wheel, didn't call anyone to vent, just sat there processing what had happened and what came next. They probably expected me to panic, start sending out resumes immediately, network frantically, make desperate phone calls, take the first decent offer that came along because bills don't stop when you lose your job and survival means swallowing your pride. But I'd been preparing for something like this without fully realizing it, kept my skills sharp, stayed current on industry developments, built a reputation outside of Titan through conference presentations and side consulting work I'd done on weekends, published articles in security journals, helped smaller companies shore up their defenses pro bono, because I genuinely cared about doing the work right. I had 6 months severance. Savings that could cover another 6 months after that if needed. No kids, no mortgage, low overhead. I wasn't desperate, and that changed everything. The work I'd done at Titan spoke for itself to anyone who understood the industry. Every major contract they'd won in the past decade had my fingerprints all over it. Every disaster they'd avoided was because I'd built systems that caught problems before they became catastrophic. They'd just handed me freedom without realizing it. I drove home. Small apartment in Southeast Portland. 1 bedroom, efficient kitchen, enough space for me and not much else. Unloaded the box. Made coffee. Sat at my kitchen table and started thinking about what I actually wanted to do next instead of what I thought I should do. For the first time in 15 years, I could build something exactly the way I knew it should be built. No compromises, no committees, no nephew with an MBA overruling technical decisions with marketing speak. While Brandon and Kelly celebrated bringing in fresh talent, they didn't understand the foundation was already cracking. They talked about progress like it was software you could download. Install it over old systems without checking what still works underneath. What dependencies exist? What will break when you change core architecture? But Titan Security Group's reputation hadn't been built on flashy investor presentations or expensive hires with impressive resumes. It had been constructed protocol by protocol, firewall by firewall, during the years when most companies didn't understand that digital security mattered as much as physical security. When executives thought cybersecurity was something you could ignore until it became a problem. I was there when they handed out coffee mugs at 5-year anniversary milestones like that actually meant something. Already running version 3 of the threat detection engine that had saved their contract with the state education department, $470,000 annually. When their first head of technology, guy named Russell, who'd been hired because he interviewed well and said what they wanted to hear, panicked over a breach attempt in 2013, I was the one who fixed it, worked through the night, patched vulnerability, isolated compromised system, rebuilt security layers, drafted the public statement they released the next morning that made it sound like everything was under control and always had been. Managed the whole crisis while Russell hid in his office, making phone calls to lawyers. They called it luck. I called it understanding your own systems and being competent enough to fix them under pressure. Russell left 6 months later for a better offer at some startup that failed within a year. I stayed, trained his replacement, then trained that person's replacement 2 years later when they left for more money. I was the constant. The foundation everything else was built on. Brandon's father, William Fletcher, the company founder, he had vision. Saw the market need before most people did. Understood that security would become critical as businesses moved operations online. But vision without execution is just wishful thinking and good intention. The company scaled because someone built architecture that didn't collapse when investors showed up demanding quick returns. When management changed every couple years because ambitious people used Titan as a stepping stone to bigger opportunities. I trained 3 generations of security analysts, wrote the automation protocols for threat response that won us MedSource Corporation, biggest pharmaceutical client we had, contract worth $2.1 million annually. I'd spent 4 months customizing our security framework to meet strict healthcare data requirements, HIPAA compliance, encryption standards, access controls that satisfied federal regulators, presented to their board personally, answered every technical question they threw at me for 2 hours. They signed because they trusted the system I'd built from scratch. I designed the backup protocols that kept everything running during the 2018 server migration. Everyone said it couldn't be done. Too much data, too many active clients, too many simultaneous processes running 24/7. I mapped out the entire migration over 6 weeks, tested every scenario I could think of, built redundancy into redundancy. We moved everything over a 3-day weekend. 0 downtime, 0 data loss. Monday morning, clients logged in like nothing had happened. William Fletcher pulled me aside after that. Told me I'd save the company. Said he'd make sure I was taken care of. Promised I'd always have a place at Titan as long as he was alive. He died 9 months later. Massive heart attack at his desk on a Thursday afternoon. Brandon took over. The promise disappeared with his father. It was all me. Every critical system. Every major contract. Every disaster avoided. I didn't need recognition or awards or my name on press releases. I needed to know the work was solid, that it protected people who trusted us, that it held up under real-world pressure and didn't just look good in demos. They forgot all of it because they never really understood what I did in the first place. To them, I was legacy infrastructure, the guy in the back office who preferred function over flash, who built things that worked instead of things that looked impressive. I wasn't someone you put on stage during product launches. Those were Brandon's thing, or Kelly's. They had the presence, the polish, the ability to make complex technical concepts sound simple and revolutionary. I was who you called at 3 in the morning when the launch servers crashed, when systems failed, when clients panicked, when the shiny presentation met ugly reality. But when things work smoothly for too long, people stop noticing them. When they stop noticing, they start thinking those things maintain themselves, that anyone could do it, that you're replaceable. That was their fatal mistake. They forgot I wasn't just an employee contributing to projects. I was embedded in the foundation. Every protocol had my thinking in it. Every security layer reflected threats I'd studied for years. Every automated response system had been tested against attack scenarios I'd modeled and wargamed. And while they chased shiny futures and fresh perspective, they never stopped to consider what would happen when the past walked away. The phone call came 2 days after they fired me, Thursday afternoon around 2. I was at my kitchen table reading through job listings I wasn't particularly excited about. Number I didn't recognize. Seattle area code. Almost sent it to voicemail. But something made me answer. Curiosity, maybe. Instinct. Mr. Hayes. The voice was professional, measured, not trying too hard, confident, but not aggressive. My name is Jordan Cole. I'm calling from Sentinel Defense Solutions. I'd like to speak with you privately if you have a few minutes. Off the record, I knew the name. Sentinel Defense Solutions. Small security firm based out of Seattle. They'd been making noise in certain circles for ethical data protection platforms and autonomous threat response systems. Not flashy, not heavily marketed, but smart. Quiet smart. The kind of smart that doesn't need PR firms and trade show booths because the work speaks for itself. How'd you get my number? I asked. Industry contacts. I heard about your departure from Titan. Thought we might have some mutual interests. You mean you heard I got fired? I heard they made a significant strategic error. There's a difference. That got my attention. What do you want? To buy you coffee and have a conversation. Tomorrow if you're available. There's a place in the Pearl District. Quiet, good coffee. No pitch, no pressure. Just two people who understand security architecture talking about the industry. I thought about saying no. Thought about telling him I was already fielding offers, which was technically true even if none of them were interesting. Thought about playing hard to get, but I was curious. And honestly, I had nothing but time. Tomorrow works. Send me the address. We met at a small coffee shop off Burnside, the kind of place that takes coffee seriously. Jordan was younger than I expected. Mid-30s maybe. Sharp eyes, dressed business casual, carried himself like someone who'd earned his position instead of inheriting it. He didn't pitch me, didn't start with a sales presentation about how great Sentinel was. Just ordered coffee and started asking questions, real ones, about long-tail breach patterns, about automation gaps in permission structures, about balancing security with user experience, things that proved he understood the actual work instead of just the buzzwords. I've been following your conference presentations for 3 years, he said. The one you did in San Francisco about predictive threat modeling was brilliant. Changed how we think about response protocols. Titan never implemented any of that, I said. Said it was too expensive. Their loss. Jordan pulled out a tablet, showed me some architecture diagrams. This is what we're building. Security platforms specifically designed for mid-sized companies. Organizations between 50 and 500 employees. The ones that can't afford enterprise-level protection, but need it anyway. I studied the diagrams. Good bones. Some creative thinking. But gaps everywhere that would become problems under real-world conditions. This won't scale, I said, pointing at their threat detection matrix. You're building for best-case scenarios. Actual attacks don't follow best-case patterns. They exploit edge cases you didn't plan for. Jordan smiled. That's exactly why I wanted to talk to you. You want me to fix your architecture. I want you to help us build it right from the beginning. Not as a consultant, as part of the team. Lead architect if you're interested. I sat back. You're offering me a job. I'm offering you a chance to build what you've always known should exist, without committees watering it down, without executives who don't understand security making design decisions, without some MBA overruling technical requirements because they look bad on investor slides. That landed hard. He'd done his homework, knew exactly what I'd been dealing with at Titan. What's the catch? I asked. No catch. Small team. Smaller budget than you're used to. We can't match what Titan was paying you, but complete technical authority. You design it, we build it. No interference. I thought about it. Sipped my coffee. Watched people walk past the window outside. When would you need an answer? Take a week. Think about it. Come tour the office if you want. Meet the team. We're not going anywhere. 3 days later, I was sitting in Sentinel's office in downtown Seattle. Modern space. Open floor plan. 26 people total. Everyone looked busy. Actually busy, not performing busy for managers. Jordan introduced me to the key team members. Elena, lead engineer, 42 years old, previously worked for Microsoft. Quiet, competent, asked good technical questions. 2 senior analysts, both former government security contractors. Knew their stuff. Head of client relations, Guy named David who'd actually read my published articles and asked intelligent questions about implementation. No passengers. No legacy hires collecting paychecks. Just competence. We want to launch something specifically designed for healthcare providers, Jordan explained, walking me through their development roadmap. Hospitals, clinics, medical groups, they have strict compliance requirements but limited security budgets. We think there's a massive underserved market. I looked at their preliminary designs. Healthcare was complicated. HIPAA requirements, state regulations, patient privacy laws, data retention rules. Most security firms avoided it because the compliance burden was heavy. This is ambitious, I said. That's why we need someone who's actually done it before. He meant MedSource, my pharmaceutical client at Titan. What timeline are you looking at? 6 months to working prototype, 12 months to full launch, 18 months to profitable. Aggressive but possible with the right architecture. I want complete technical authority, I said. No design by committee, no overruling security requirements for marketing reasons. If I say something needs to be done a certain way for security purposes, it gets done that way. Done. And I want equity. Jordan didn't hesitate. We can structure that. How much were you thinking? 15%, he counteroffered. 12% vested over 4 years. Partner track if we hit revenue targets in year 2. I thought about it. Smaller salary than Titan, but equity meant I'd actually own part of what we built. Share in success instead of just collecting a paycheck. Deal. I started the following Monday. Moved to Seattle that weekend. Found a small apartment in Capitol Hill. Cheap rent, walking distance to the office. Didn't need much space, just somewhere to sleep between work sessions. Spent the first 2 weeks just analyzing their existing systems, finding weak points, identifying what needed rebuilding versus what could be reinforced. The team was good. Smart people who knew their specialties. Elena's engineering work was solid. The analyst understood threat patterns. David knew how to talk to clients without overselling capabilities, but they lacked someone who understood how all the pieces fit together. How security architecture at scale works when you're protecting sensitive data for hundreds of clients simultaneously. How different components interact under load. What breaks first when systems are stressed. Where vulnerabilities hide in the connections between otherwise secure components. I designed the core framework over 6 weeks. Long days. Weekends. But it was different from Titan. I was building something new instead of maintaining something old. Creating instead of patching. The threat detection logic learned from patterns instead of relying on static rules. Most security systems work like simple if-then statements. If this happens, do that. But real attacks are dynamic. Hackers adapt. Use techniques that haven't been seen before. Our system analyzed behavior patterns. Recognized when something was abnormal even if it wasn't explicitly defined as a threat. Permission structures could scale from 10 users to 10,000 without breaking. That was critical. Most small company security works fine until the company grows. Then everything collapses because the architecture wasn't designed to scale. We built it right from the beginning. Flexible authentication. Role-based access that adapted as organizations expanded. Logging systems that maintained performance, even as data volume increased exponentially. Automated response protocols handled most incidents without human intervention. Detected a threat, isolated it, contained it, alerted administrators, all within seconds. But we included override controls for complex situations that needed human judgment. Security can't be completely automated. You need people making decisions when circumstances are unusual. We called it Aegis Protocol, healthcare-focused, HIPAA-compliant, built specifically for organizations that needed enterprise-level security without enterprise budgets. Everything encrypted, all data stored securely. Audit trails automatically generated for compliance reviews. Backup systems that activated instantly if primary systems failed. Launched in April. Started targeting regional clinics and medical groups, dental practices, urgent care centers, physical therapy chains. The organizations Titan ignored because contracts under $500,000 annually weren't worth their sales team's time. Too small to matter to the big players. But there were thousands of them, and they all needed security. They all handled patient data. They all faced compliance requirements and penalties if they got breached. Most of them were using outdated systems or relying on general-purpose security that wasn't designed for healthcare. We offered them something better, at a price they could afford. Within 3 months, we had 42 clients. Month 6, 87. All of them paying subscription fees that looked small individually. $20,000 per year, $35,000, $40,000 for larger practices. But volume made it profitable. 42 clients at an average of $30,000 per year was $1.26 million in annual recurring revenue. 87 clients was $2.61 million. Real money. Revenue grew steadily. Word spread through industry networks and professional associations. We weren't competing with Titan directly, not yet anyway. We were serving the market segment they'd abandoned as unprofitable, but our reputation started creeping into their territory. Clients would hear about us from other healthcare providers, see our presentations at medical conferences, read case studies about how we'd protected organizations similar to theirs. That's when things got interesting. I started hearing things through old contacts, people I'd trained who were still at Titan. They'd reach out occasionally, asking technical questions, complaining about changes Austin was making, mentioning problems they were running into. Titan was struggling. Nothing catastrophic at first, just slow bleeding. Client complaints about response times, security incidents that should have been caught early but weren't, system glitches cascading into bigger problems because nobody understood how the fixes I'd built actually worked. Austin Fletcher, the golden nephew, had been promoted to Director of Security Infrastructure, my old position. Except he didn't understand the systems he'd inherited, didn't know which protocols could be modified and which ones were load-bearing. Started making changes because they looked cleaner on paper without understanding why things were built the way they were. You can't just rearrange security architecture like furniture. Every component depends on other components. Change one thing without understanding dependencies, and you break 3 other things you didn't know were connected. In July, Titan lost their second biggest client, Regional Hospital Network, 22 facilities across Oregon and Washington, contract worth $2.3 million annually. Official reason given was budget restructuring. Real reason, according to someone I used to work with, was that Titan's threat detection had missed 3 separate breach attempts in 5 months. Small attempts, probing attacks that should have been caught instantly by automated systems. Instead, they went undetected for days. The hospital's board got nervous, decided they couldn't risk patient data on security that wasn't catching obvious threats. That same hospital network reached out to Sentinel in August, wanted to know if Aegis Protocol could handle their scale. Could we meet their compliance requirements? Did we have references from similar organizations? I personally walked them through the architecture, showed them how our system adapted to medical data requirements, how automated responses worked in high-stakes environments where seconds mattered, how we'd built redundancy into everything so single points of failure didn't exist, answered their technical questions for 3 hours, demonstrated the system handling simulated breach scenarios, walked through our disaster recovery protocols. We signed them in September. Biggest contract in Sentinel's history. $2.4 million annually. 5-year commitment. I didn't celebrate publicly, didn't send gloating messages to anyone at Titan, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't feel satisfying. The client they'd lost through incompetence had chosen us specifically because we'd built what they actually needed. Titan kept declining. Small things at first. Employee turnover in the security division. Good people leaving. Longer response times on support tickets. Clients quietly not renewing contracts. By November, they'd lost 6 major accounts in 4 months. For a company their size, that was significant. That was market share evaporating. Brandon started making public statements about innovation and evolution. Brought in expensive consultants to analyze their operation. Funny thing about consultants, they're great at identifying problems. Terrible at fixing them if the foundation is broken. You can't consultant your way out of technical incompetence. Austin tried implementing new protocols he'd learned at some industry conference. Automated systems that looked impressive in demos but collapsed under real-world load. He didn't understand that security isn't about following trends. It's about building things that don't break when everything goes wrong simultaneously, when you're under actual attack from people who know what they're doing. December brought a catastrophic incident. One of Titan's clients, a financial services firm handling retirement accounts, got hit with a ransomware attack, encrypted 40% of their data in 11 hours. Titan's systems should have caught it in the first 30 seconds, should have isolated the threat and shut it down automatically. Instead, it ran for 11 hours before anyone noticed. The firm lost access to client records, transaction histories, compliance documentation, everything. The fallout was nuclear. The financial firm sued Titan for negligence and breach of contract. Industry publications ran stories questioning their competence. Other clients started asking hard questions about security guarantees and liability clauses. Brandon went into crisis mode, hired a PR firm, released carefully worded statements about isolated incidents and additional training measures. Didn't matter. Reputation damage in security is permanent. Once clients stop trusting you, they don't come back. They can't afford to. One breach can destroy their business. They need absolute certainty that their security provider knows what they're doing. I watched it happen from Seattle. Didn't gloat publicly. Didn't trash them in industry forums. Just kept building. Kept improving Aegis Protocol. Kept serving clients who needed reliable protection instead of flashy promises. Sentinel grew. By February, we'd expanded to 63 employees. 18 new clients signed in 1 month. Revenue up 340% year over year. Jordan offered me partner equity, 22% ownership, full partnership in all decisions. I accepted. Now I wasn't just an employee, I was an owner. My success was tied directly to the company's success. Every good decision I made increased the value of something I actually owned. In March, Brandon Fletcher reached out personally. Email sent directly to my Sentinel address. Professional tone. No acknowledgement of how things had ended. Just asked if I'd be interested in consulting for Titan on a contract basis to help stabilize their infrastructure. Offered to pay premium rates for my expertise. I read it twice, thought about it for maybe 10 seconds, then deleted it. Not out of spite, not out of revenge, but because I was building something better with people who valued what I brought. Going backward made 0 sense. Why would I help fix the mess they'd created by firing me? Why would I rescue people who'd thrown me away like garbage? 2 weeks later, industry contacts told me Titan was hemorrhaging clients, down 40% from their peak 18 months ago. Austin Fletcher had been quietly moved to a different role with a meaningless title. They had brought in an outside security director, someone with impressive credentials, but no knowledge of their specific systems. The new director spent 3 months trying to reverse engineer the architecture I'd built, trying to figure out why things were designed certain ways, what protocols did what, which systems depended on which others. Didn't work. You can't fix infrastructure you don't understand. Can't modify systems when you don't know what'll break. By June, Titan had lost another 8 clients. Stock price dropped 18%. Board members started asking hard questions about leadership. Brandon Fletcher resigned under pressure. The company got acquired in September, bought out by a larger security firm for significantly less than their valuation 2 years earlier. Most of the executive team was let go immediately, Austin Fletcher included. The acquiring company gutted the security division and rebuilt everything from scratch using their own systems. 15 years of infrastructure destroyed in 18 months by people who thought credentials mattered more than competence. Sentinel kept growing, expanded into additional markets, financial services, legal firms, educational institutions, anywhere that needed serious security but couldn't afford the biggest players in the industry. We hired more talent, improved the platform, added features clients actually requested instead of features that looked good in marketing materials. By year 2, we were serving 247 clients across 11 states. Revenue hit $22 million. Started getting acquisition offers ourselves. Companies wanted to buy us, take our technology and client base. Jordan asked what I thought. I said we weren't done building yet. Why sell when we were just getting started? When we were proving that doing the work right actually mattered. 3 years after getting fired from Titan, Sentinel Defense Solutions had become one of the fastest growing security firms in the Pacific Northwest. 137 employees, over 400 active clients, $46 million in annual revenue. I ran the entire technical division, built the team from 19 engineers to 63, designed 3 additional security platforms beyond Aegis Protocol, won industry awards for innovation and threat detection, got invited to speak at major conferences where people actually listened because the work spoke for itself. Not because of my title, not because of marketing, because we'd built systems that worked better than anything else available in our market segment. I never reached back out to anyone from Titan, never gloated, never sent screenshots of Sentinel's success to Brandon or Austin. Didn't need to. The industry is small. Everyone saw what happened. Everyone knew why. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's building something so solid that the people who underestimated you become irrelevant by comparison. Brandon Fletcher reached out one final time. Different email address, more personal. Said he'd made a mistake. Asked if there was any chance we could talk about lessons learned. Maybe even explore whether I'd consider coming back in an advisory capacity. I thought about responding. Thought about explaining that the lesson was simple. Don't replace the foundation while the building is still standing. Don't assume fresh faces understand complex systems just because they went to expensive schools. Don't confuse innovation with destruction. Instead, I archived the email and got back to work. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks. Story 6. So, when I was a little younger, I used to live with my grandparents, right? And my grandpa, before he passed away, did something super cool for me. He opened up a savings account with some money in it, and he was like, "This money is just for you to go to college one day." My grandparents didn't go to college themselves, but they thought education was super important and really wanted to see me and the rest of the family get that college experience. Now, my mom and my uncle, they didn't go the college route. They chose to do other stuff instead. But my grandpa noticed I was all into learning and especially loved science stuff. I mean, I even dream about becoming a neurosurgeon someday. You know, a brain surgeon. So Grandpa made me a promise. He was like, I'm going to make sure you can go through school without worrying about money. And to do that, he put money into this special savings account just for my college fees, and he kept adding money to it every month for years. But here's the catch. I had to keep my grades up, really show I was serious about this whole college thing. And yeah, I managed to snag a scholarship that covers my tuition for the first 2 years of college, which is awesome. My parents know all about this scholarship. Here's where it gets kind of tricky. I recently found out that the money in that savings account, which was supposed to be around $50,000, is now less than $10,000. Like a lot less than what was supposed to be there for my college. Finding out that the money my grandpa had saved for my college was mostly gone was like a punch in the gut. I was totally shocked and really upset. The only people who could have taken that money were my parents, because they had access to the account just like me. When I asked them what happened to the money, at first they tried to play it off like they didn't know what I was talking about. They even tried to say that my grandpa hadn't put that much money in there to begin with. But I knew exactly how much was supposed to be in that account because I had seen the total amount before. So I called them out, telling them they weren't being straight with me, and I wanted the real story. Finally, they spilled the beans. They had taken a big chunk of the money to buy a brand new car for my younger sister as a surprise for her sweet 16th birthday. They said they wanted to make her birthday special and thought she deserved a big present. Hearing that made me see red. I was so mad and hurt. It felt like they were saying my sister's birthday party was more important than my dream of going to college. They had never really talked about helping me pay for school because they figured my grandpa's money had it covered. When I found out they used my college fund for a car, I just lost it. I was crying and asking them how they could think it was okay to take money that was meant for my education, money that wasn't theirs to spend without even asking me. So after they took the money for the car, my parents tried to justify it by saying they thought I wouldn't need the college fund anymore because of my scholarship. But here's the thing. I had told them right from the start that my scholarship only covered my tuition for the first 2 years. I was clear about that. I never planned on taking out student loans because my grandpa had set up this fund to make sure I wouldn't have to worry about college expenses. I worked hard to get that scholarship, but it wasn't going to cover everything. Despite me laying all this out, my parents still think they didn't do anything wrong. That's why I decided to take legal action against them to get back the money they took. This decision didn't go over well with the rest of my family. They're pretty upset with me. They think I shouldn't have made our private family business public and that I'm being too harsh, especially towards my sister. They say I ruined her birthday surprise by making a big deal out of the situation. But from where I stand, it's about more than just a birthday gift. It's about my future, the promise my grandpa made, and the trust that was broken when my parents decided to use my college fund for something else without even asking me. It's a tough spot to be in, feeling like you have to fight your own family to protect your dreams and the plans your grandpa had for you. So, here's the deal. In my family, there's this vibe where my sister is practically treated like she's the main character of a movie, and I'm just some extra in the background. You know, she's the golden child, the one who can do no wrong in my parents' eyes. It's like she's living in a spotlight and I'm just there. This one time, to show you what I mean, they decided she needed a brand new car. Yeah, a car. And not just any car, but one straight out of the showroom, all shiny and fancy. Now, while they were all excited about this big gift for her, I was sitting there thinking about my own big dream, college. But guess what? They pretty much said, "Oh, your sister needs this car more than you need a future." And whenever I try to talk about how this whole situation makes me feel, it's like I suddenly become the bad guy. They say I'm embarrassing them just because people get to hear about our family dramas. Honestly, I'm just trying to be real and express my feelings. But somehow that's a big no-no. Now, on my end, I'm totally freaking out. I've got plans, big ones, and they involve going to college and doing something awesome with my life. But here's the kicker. I actually worked my butt off to make sure I could get there. I skipped parties, said no to hanging out with friends, all that fun teenage stuff, just so I could hit the books and keep my grades sky high. And why? Because I was told that's what it takes to make my college dreams come true. But now, with my college fund looking like it's gone into the abyss, I'm standing here wondering if all that sacrifice was for nothing. My parents, they've thrown around some words about helping me out financially with college, but let's just say I'm not holding my breath. They've shown their true colors, and reliability isn't one of them. Then there's my grandma, who's all about forgiveness and moving on. She's like, just let it go and make up with them. But it's not that easy, right? Meanwhile, my mom is on a totally different page. She's actually mad at me for wanting what I worked for. She thinks I'm being selfish and inconsiderate just because I'm asking for my own money back, the money I was counting on to start my next big chapter. And get this, She even dropped the "I might disown you" bomb on me, just because I'm considering getting a lawyer to make sure I get my college fund back. She's calling me ungrateful, but all I want is what I was promised, what I worked hard for. So here I am, wondering, am I really the bad guy here for wanting to secure my future? For wanting back the money that was supposed to be mine for college? It's a mess, and I'm just trying to find my way through it without losing my mind. Update. So after what felt like an eternity of arguing, going back and forth, and just a ton of stress, my dad finally came around. He actually went ahead and canceled the car order at the dealership to get a refund. Can you believe it? It was like finally someone was starting to see sense in this whole mess. But here's the kicker. I wasn't about to take a victory lap just yet. I made it crystal clear to them that I wasn't going to just drop the lawsuit until every single penny that was taken from my account was safely back where it belonged. And you know what? I wasn't taking any more chances. I made sure to cut off their access to my savings account. No more surprise withdrawals for fancy cars or whatever else they might come up with. Now my sister, oh boy, she did not take this well. At all. She started bombarding me with these super mean texts, going on about how I'm just jealous because I didn't get a car for my birthday. Seriously? She threw an absolute fit when she found out my dad was taking the car back. It was like World War III in our house. And now she's not letting it go. She keeps bringing it up. And my mom? She's totally taking her side, blaming me for all the drama and saying I'm the reason my sister's acting out. It's like I'm the villain for not wanting my future to get traded for a set of wheels. They've pretty much given me the cold shoulder, but honestly, I'm not losing any sleep over it. We've never been the picture-perfect family to begin with. There's always been this distance, so it's not like I'm missing out on some warm, fuzzy family bonding. What really matters to me through all of this is getting my college fund back. That's the end game, and knowing that it's actually happening, that I'm getting my money back, it's like this huge weight is lifting off my shoulders. Sure, the family drama is at an all-time high, and the tension could probably be cut with a knife. But at the end of the day, securing my future is what's most important. So I'm sticking to my guns, lawsuit and all, until everything's settled. It's been a wild ride, but seeing that light at the end of the tunnel, it's making all this chaos feel a bit more bearable. Update 2. So after a ton of arguments, yelling, and too many tears, my dad finally caved. He actually went ahead and canceled the order for the car at the dealership to get a refund. Yeah, you heard that right. But here's the kicker. I wasn't ready to let bygones be bygones. I told them straight up, no full refund, no dropping the lawsuit. Plus, I made sure they were cut off from the savings account. No more financial funny business on their part. You'd think that would sort things out, right? Wrong. My sister went nuclear. She started bombarding me with texts, calling me all sorts of names, accusing me of being a green-eyed monster because I didn't get a shiny car for my birthday. When Dad broke the news about returning the car, she threw what can only be described as an epic tantrum. Honestly, I thought those only happened in movies. Now she's not just sulking in silence. Oh no, she's making sure the whole world knows how cruel I've been. And my mom? She's taken up the mantle of blaming me for my sister's immaturity, saying I've ruined everything. They've both given me the cold shoulder, but honestly, I'm not even fazed. It's not like we were the picture-perfect family to begin with. But here's where I stand amidst the chaos. I'm getting my college fund back. That's the hill I'm willing to die on. This whole saga has been a wild ride, but knowing that my future is secure again gives me a sense of peace I haven't felt in weeks. I've been reflecting a lot on this whole mess. It's clear my family has always played favorites, and I've always known where I stood in that hierarchy. But this ordeal has shown me that standing up for myself is not only necessary, it's vital. My education, my dreams of becoming a neurosurgeon, they're worth fighting for. And if that means ruffling a few feathers, so be it. I've also learned a valuable lesson about independence. From now on, I'm taking full control of my finances, my decisions, and my life. No more relying on promises, especially from those who've shown they can't keep them. As for the lawsuit, it's still hanging over our heads like a dark cloud. But it's a cloud I'm willing to weather if it means securing my future. My grandma's advice to forgive and forget is something I'm struggling with. But I know that forgiveness doesn't mean allowing others to walk all over you. In the midst of all this, I've found support in unexpected places. Friends, some family members who understand where I'm coming from, and even a few teachers have been my rock. Their encouragement has been a beacon of light in what felt like endless darkness. So, what's next for me? Well, I'm focusing on my studies, on securing scholarships, and on planning my path to medical school. It's going to be a tough journey, especially with the family drama simmering in the background. But I've come to realize that I'm tougher. And no matter what, I'm not giving up on my dreams. This whole saga might have started with a betrayal, but it's turning into a story of resilience, determination, and, hopefully, success. And while I'm not sure what the future holds, I know one thing for sure. I'm ready to face it head on, with or without my family's support. Next story. So I'm this guy who's 26 years old. I've got a sister who's a bit older than me. She's 28. It's just the two of us now because our mom and dad are no longer around, and we don't have any other family like aunts, uncles, or cousins to lean on. It's also worth mentioning that I'm not dating anyone right now, and neither is my sister. But she's got a little kid, a 3-year-old, making her a mom doing it all on her own. Even though we're the only family each other has, we're not super close. We live in the same city, but we hardly see each other, maybe like once a year, if that. So that's the setup. Now jump to what happened last week. My sister suddenly shows up at my place and leaves her kid with me. She tells me she needs to check herself into the hospital because she's dealing with some mental health stuff and that I'm the only one who can take care of her son right now. I was so surprised I couldn't even say anything. She didn't even stick around to chat or anything. She just left her son on my couch, told me this as she was heading back to her car, and then took off. And get this, she didn't leave anything with the kid. No diapers, no baby stuff, nothing at all. She didn't tell me when she'd be back or anything. In less than 4 hours, I was calling the police and getting child services involved because it felt like she just ditched her son with me without any plan. It was as if he was abandoned. So the authorities came and took him because my sister was still in the hospital. I've got no way to reach her, and she hasn't tried to reach out to me either. I can't imagine the hellstorm that's going to be unleashed when she's out. I'm just not equipped to handle a kid. My home isn't childproof. I have no friends who could babysit for a stranger or even has a fever. I work full time. I'm in school. I couldn't think of any alternative besides getting child services involved. I feel like I let my sister down. But first and foremost, I believe she let her own child down. I don't know what's going to happen. Was I the a-hole? Edit. So, here's the deal. My sister was in a bit of a bind and needed help big time. But when it came to leaving stuff for the baby, like that crucial car seat that snaps into place in a car, she kind of dropped the ball. And here's the kicker. I don't even own a car. Now, I thought about hitting up a buddy to help grab some baby gear, but that was just scratching the surface of the whole situation. Enter child services, or as we call it around my neck of the woods, fix. Think of them as the cavalry riding in when families are going through rough patches. I gave them the lowdown, my sister's name, where she's staying at the hospital, hoping they'd swoop in and help make things right. They took the info and promised to check into it, handing me a contact number. But when it came to sharing updates or any news with me, they were tight-lipped because, well, I'm not the baby's mom or dad. And about my sister's condition, they were like a vault. Couldn't share a thing with me. It's not like I was looking to hand off the baby for good. I was just in over my head, trying to find a temporary fix for a situation that was pretty much impossible for me to handle on my own. My best guess? The baby's probably chilling in a foster home for the time being until my sister can get back on her feet. That's about all I know. And let me tell you, juggling work or school with taking care of a baby full-time is no joke. That's where organizations like Fix come into play. They're game changers because they can handle the heavy lifting. But here we are, 8 days later, and it's crickets. No updates, nothing. And if I were to bail on work, not knowing when I'd be able to clock back in, I might as well kiss my job goodbye. It's a tough spot for sure. Next story. So here's the deal. I'm a 20-year-old girl just living my life, and I've got this amazing boyfriend who's 31. Yeah, there's a bit of an age gap, but we're all about that love life, you know? Then there's my family. My mom and dad, who are always in my corner, and my brother, who's 25 and pretty cool too. On my boyfriend's side, it's just him and his mom now, since his dad passed away back in November 2018, which was a rough time for everyone. Now, onto the juicy part. My boyfriend and I have been working side by side for 3 years. We're like two peas in a pod, tackling everything together. And guess what? We're tying the knot this spring. We're keeping the wedding low-key because, honestly, we've been squirreling away every dollar to buy our own place. We're in Toronto, and let me tell you, trying to buy a house here is like trying to win a lottery without buying a ticket. It's almost impossible. But hey, we've been pretty good with our savings. And we've managed to save up a whopping $700,000 in cash for our dream home. One day, as we're scrolling through listings, our eyes pop out of our heads. We see it, the listing of our dreams. It's a triplex, which means it's this big building split into 3 apartments, each with 2 bedrooms. It's perfect because we've always dreamed about owning a place where we can live in one part and rent out the others. It's like hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. We get our dream home and a way to make some extra cash for when we're older and thinking about retirement. The catch? This dream building is listed at $950,000, way over what we plan to spend, and it's classified as a commercial property. That means we have to cough up the entire 20% down payment up front. So here's where it gets interesting. We're looking at our savings, then at the price tag of the dream home and scratching our heads. We're a bit short on the down payment because of the whole 20% rule. That's when a light bulb goes off. Why not ask my folks to see if they can chip in? It's not like we're asking them to foot the whole bill, just to help us bridge the gap so we can snag this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It's a big ask, sure, but we're hoping they'll see how much this means to us and maybe, just maybe, they'll be able to help us make our dream a reality. So the plot thickens with a bit of family drama and some financial twists. My folks are doing pretty well for themselves, to put it mildly. My dad's raking in over a cool $1 million a year, so they're not exactly pinching pennies over there. A few years back, they basically snapped their fingers and bought my brother a swanky townhouse worth $500,000 as a belated graduation gift. Just like that, no biggie. So, you can imagine, when my fiance and I were brainstorming ways to make our dream home a reality, we thought, hey, maybe my parents could throw a little help our way. We weren't asking for the moon, just a tiny slice of it, 50K, and we weren't expecting a handout. We were totally open to the idea of it being a loan. We figured, given their track record and financial comfort zone, it wouldn't be too outlandish of an ask. But boy, were we wrong. They shut us down faster than a rainy day ruins a picnic. Their reasoning? Since my fiance and I have each other, we're somehow less in need of their support compared to my solo flying brother. Sure, a free house is a game changer for anyone, but according to them, our duo dynamic meant we were already ahead of the game. Naturally, we took it on the chin. We're not the type to crumble at the first sign of adversity. We knew we'd bounce back, stick to our original plan, and delay our dreams of landlord glory for a bit longer. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't sting. It wasn't just about the cash or the property, it was about feeling a bit left out in the cold by my own folks. And here's where it gets a tad more personal. I couldn't help but remember how my grandparents had been there for my parents when they were just starting out, helping them get their first house in a time when interest rates were through the roof. When I tried to point out this family tradition of pitching in, my mom brushed it off, saying those were different times, different circumstances. It felt like a missed opportunity for them to pay it forward, especially since they clearly had the means to do so. This whole episode has been like a mirror, reflecting back on my lifelong role as the family's unconventional member, the one who dances to her own beat, often out of step with what my parents had envisioned for their daughter. From childhood to now, I've always insisted on making my own choices, following my own path, even when it led me away from their expectations. This latest chapter with the house and the denied request, it's just another note in the melody of my relationship with my parents. It's not just the disappointment of a financial setback. It's the realization that this pattern of misunderstanding and mismatched expectations between us isn't anything new. It's a reminder that, sometimes, the support you need isn't about money. It's about feeling understood and valued for who you are, not who someone else wants you to be. And right now, that's the kind of support that seems hardest to come by. So, just when I thought the waters between me and my folks were getting a bit calmer, this whole house debacle kind of churns things up again. See, over the past few years, I kind of thought we were turning a corner, you know? I mean, by most accounts, I haven't exactly been lounging around. I snagged a master's degree, landed myself a pretty solid job, and found an awesome partner to share my life with. Not exactly the hallmarks of a life gone off the rails, right? Now, with Thanksgiving rolling around the corner here in Canada, things are getting a bit more complicated. This year, I'm planning to spend it with my fiancé and his mom. It's a big deal because it's their first Thanksgiving without his dad. The weight of that, it's heavy, you know? My fiancé really wants to be there for his mom, and honestly, I want to be right there with him. It's a first for me too, missing a holiday with my own family. And that's not something I'm taking lightly. We tried to find a middle ground, offered to swing by my family's place after dinner with some dessert in tow, hoping to still share a part of the day with them. But my folks, they're not having it. They want me there for the whole shebang, dinner and all. They don't get why my fiancé and I can't just do our own things for the holiday. But here's the thing. I don't see why every holiday has to be spent exclusively with them, especially now that my fiancé and his mom are becoming my family too. This whole situation is more than just about a dinner or a holiday. It's about recognizing that families grow and change. My fiancé and his mom, they're my family now as much as my parents and brother are. And splitting myself between two families shouldn't be such a big ask, right? It's about finding a new balance, creating traditions that include everyone in my life who matters. It's a bit of a tightrope walk, trying to keep everyone happy while also staying true to what feels right for me and my fiancé as we build our life together. This tug of war over where I spend my holidays, is just another chapter in the ongoing story of navigating family dynamics and expectations. But it's also a reminder of the importance of forging my own path, even when it's not the easiest route. It's about standing firm in my choices, respecting the new bonds I'm creating, and hoping that, eventually, everyone can see the beauty in blending old traditions with new ones. My parents have been blowing up my phone and guilt-tripping me for over a week. My mom says she needs help in the kitchen. She can't make dinner alone, and it won't be the same without me. I feel awful because I do want to see my family on Thanksgiving, but one I offered a compromise, and they said no to. I don't want to be alone with my family while I'm still hurt. I know that I'm not entitled to their money, but it's my prerogative to decide who I want to spend my holidays with. Am I the a-hole for skipping Thanksgiving with my parents?